Hey, listeners, please don't skip ahead. This is an important message. So we had some technical difficulties at the top of this show. The sound is not as good as usual for a few minutes up at the top of the show. Eventually it does clear up and goes back to normal. But I wanted to warn listeners ahead of time so that they know that it will not stay that way the whole time, and urge them, please, listen to the show. It's a great episode. We have a great guest. We have Meredith Scardino, creator of Girls 5 Eva. Very funny. She fit right in. Don't let this dissuade you from listening. I apologize that this happened. We're taking steps to make sure that the audio will always be of a higher quality in the future, but I just want to let you know up top. Thank you.
On this episode, we discuss Disclosure.
This movie's got everything from the 1990s. Mentions of Prozac, Nordic Trap, hard copy, built-in fax modems, very animated email menus, Stairmaster, Fat Barbie, Sock Monkeys, and Dennis Miller.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Flophouse. I'm Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
I'm Elliot Kalin.
And today we have a very special guest, the creator of Girls 5 Eva, one of the funniest shows going right now. It's on Netflix. People should watch it so I can watch more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Meredith Scardino, hello.
Hello. It's an honor to be here.
I love that energy.
She says
I
reputations.
met a cat. It's been great.
Yeah, one of the two cats that lives here was kind enough to come out and say hello.
The other one, Dan, admit the other one is a man in a cat costume that you pretend is a cat.
Yeah.
But it's shy.
Yeah, but it's very shy.
The
The shyer of the two cats.
You
Yeah.
can get away with that if you just have that shy cat be a guy in a cat costume. Just be like, yeah, he's shy.
Yeah. Where would he live though? There's so little sleeping room. Anyway,
I imagine you have your bed up on blocks so he can fit under the bed a little bit more comfortably.
Sounds okay. You convinced me. Let's do it.
Also, because you've taken the wheels off the bed, so it has to be up on blocks in your front yard, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And we're in the middle of the New York heat wave, so you got to keep that guy in a cat suit hydrated, Dan. Keep him cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh,
That's why.
Maybe he can sleep in a bed with a frozen bottle of water. I think the mayor suggested.
That's why this
Crazy.
episode is brought to you by Froze Cat Man, the frozen bottle of water specifically designed for a man in a cat costume who's pretending to be a cat.
That's a good sponsor.
Well, we did our usual weird cat man bit to make our guest comfortable.
17 years running.
Dan, the man, his name's Catman Crothers, the guy who lives in your house and pretends to be a cat, right?
I can only hope that I was clever enough to name that. So yeah.
Wait,
Meredith?
I do have one because you just made a cat joke, but you also made a cat joke about Claudia Schiffer's cat being named Claudia Schiffer.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's actually Claude D, and then it's Italian, a Schiffer.
Yeah.
I like that. Or it's
like,
Claudie, a Schiffer. Like I'm labeling it as a Schiffer, but I like Claudie, a Schiffer.
Yeah. I mean, if that cat is one of those cats that has like the markings to make it look like it has a mustache, that would be perfect because all Italian cats have mustaches.
They all
This is
do.
what we've been needing. We needed Meredith to come in and do some punch up on our.
Yeah, because she's brilliant. She's a brilliant joke writer.
I was listening to it yesterday because I was like, what is the podcast?
What is this thing?
And I was
What did I
like,
get myself into?
and
You're
I
like,
immediately
anyway,
was
Meredith,
like-
thanks for coming and helping us talk about how the woke media is destroying this country.
I was like, Claude D, a Schiffer? I'm like, no, it's D, a Schiffer. Who do I yell this to on the street?
Just anyone. Just grab someone by the
It felt like an
shoulders,
emergency at the time.
shake them.
Yeah, tell them. Yeah, they need to know. People need to know this. You run to the New York Times offices and you're banging on the windows.
Yeah.
In addition, of course, Girls 5 Eva, we met Meredith because she wrote for the Colbert Report.
Mm.
Our
and I
nemesis
have
show. when we run the Daily Show. Yeah,
We stole your mascot, all that stuff.
Yep.
All the pranks.
All the pranks.
And I have always like, as someone with a big inferiority complex, I've always been I've looked at Meredith from afar very fondly because she remembers who I am when we run into each other every once in a while.
Despite being much more successful than you.
Exactly. That's all I look for.
There's not that many writers that are like white guys with beards.
I know,
right?
who wear a lot of plaid.
Yeah, in a plaid shirt and own a cat.
I've worked around so many comedy writers that I'm very good at telling subtle differences. They're like from a monolith to the pedestrian, but
This
to
man-
me, I can see detail.
Beard is a little more.
Yeah.
groomed.
Yeah, this guy is a little quiet around people he doesn't know.
I'm guessing he listens to Talking Heads and Wilco.
Mhm.
Anyway, now that we've roasted me, which
He
is another
probably has
important
strong
to
opinions
doing
about
that
whether
on the show.
Die Hard is a Christmas movie or not.
I don't.
Yeah.
That's how you can tell me apart, though. I don't.
I bet this guy likes IPAs.
Mm.
Does he know that It's a Me Mario backwards is Marissa Tomei? This guy would know.
Oh.
I've been missing out. I didn't know that one.
I didn't know that
Okay,
either. I
well-
feel like that's the video game generation's put a boobless in a calculator upside down.
It,
you know?
yeah, it,
Mhm.
yeah, I think so.
What's
Yeah,
just
go
did
get a
boobs.
calculator,
I didn't
prove
do boobless. I didn't know there was a variant, though. That also is new to me. So
Dan,
I'm learning a lot.
upside down calculators represent both with boobs,
was so
those with boobs
shocked.
and those
Well,
without.
this
Yeah.
feels like how there was like a big hole in your youth, like you had an Amish year or something, and you just
Well,
Yeah.
missed
yeah.
the calculator.
But I-
Yeah, he did a
No, but
reverse
I-
Rumsfeld.
Reverse Rumsfeld.
I knew the boobs part, which is the part that would make one titter to oneself as a kid, like boobless,
Like
like
it's
you're
a-
removing the dirty part of it, so
Yeah, Dan, I guess that's
Good
true.
point. Okay, you knew boobs, but you're like, we can stop there.
we can stop there. I don't want to.
yeah. Well, as soon as he saw the word boobs, he got nervous that his parents might catch him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he threw away the calculator.
Yeah.
I have to remember where
Wow,
I
that's a
hid this.
good ass episode of Roasting Dan. The
Yeah.
podcast.
I have to remember where I hid this calculator in the woods so I can come back for it. So, Dan, what do we do on this podcast besides
This is
roasting?
a podcast where we watch a bad movie and then we talk about it. And when we're a guest,
We're a guest all the way from our first cigarettes
Jesus
to our last
Christ.
staying day.
When we have a guest, we like to get their input on what we talk about. I gave a list of possibles, and we settled on Disclosure.
From 1994.
Yeah, the movie based on the Michael Crichton book that dared to ask, what if sexual harassment, but a lady does
Putting
it this
the
time.
her in harassment. Yeah.
Except for then it pivots from that. It's not really about
There's
that.
also men in harassment. But I guess
Oh,
you
that's
take
true.
Yeah, that's true.
For that.
Yeah.
I was like, there's about 2 seconds where I'm like, maybe I'll be like, do a bit where I'm like a hardline, weird men's rights guy on this episode. But I abandoned it very
No,
quickly.
you don't want to do that
That's
bit.
fine.
That's not a good bit.
There's no people doing
Like, finally, a movie has the courage.
Except that's the thing. It does. The
I
movie
know.
it's a real bait. It's as if Jurassic Park was like, here's a movie about dinosaurs. It's about tax dodging. The IRS is going to shut down this amusement park because they hid these files.
It's also super muddled in a way that, like, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, but I get the feeling that maybe Barry Levinson, the director, like, got the book and was like, we can't do that. So he tried to sort of complicate the thing a little bit, but it just makes it really muddy with the
Or
movies.
it's just
Maybe.
The scary dinosaur is woman.
The scariest dinosaur.
That's the most terrifying monster of all.
No,
Woman.
I mean, as a kid, my introduction to Michael Crichton stuff was Jurassic Park, of course. And
Sure.
so I was shocked that
greatest
a
masterpiece,
lot of
yeah.
the other movies based on his work had sexy stuff in it, like this one and Rising Sun? That
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, that was
Rising
also
Sun is
in
his
his
too. And Congo
reactionary-
with those hot gorillas. Yeah.
one. Yeah.
When he got into his more reactionary period, I think he got sexier too. I read a lot of the earlier, Andromeda Strain is not particularly erotic.
What
It's,
about
uh,
Sphere?
Sphere
Yeah.
has one moment of eroticism in it, but otherwise not much. I think it's true that he probably did go through this period where his stuff was pretty straightforward science fiction. I mean, Westworld has barely any sex stuff in it. There is a sex scene between a man and a robot, but the implication is that this is not great.
And then the HBO show was like, we'll fix that.
And but then I think you're right, because his later books are very like anti-climate change science and things like that. Like there was that anti-evolution. He became very reactionary in a weird way. But I guess so many of his books, the message of it is don't try to change anything or invent anything, because it's going to go bad. Keep things exactly the way they are right now, which is the most reactionary conservative message possible. Or it was, until conservatism became about trying to turn America into like a Christian feudal state based on Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, let's steer away from that and then steer back into it when we have to.
So Meredith, why Disclosure?
Well, I had watched it not that long ago.
Okay.
Which was one of the things,
So this was a labor-saving measure for you.
well, I did rewatch it. But I had always known, so there's a lot that, first of all, so I had heard about it. Well, one, the protagonist's name is Meredith. So just in a selfish way, I just watch things with my name.
I watch film.
I love the idea that Blockbuster Video would have a Meredith cut of movies where they just dub your name in over the characters' names, so that you would come and rent it.
You also have a lot of Megadeth albums because you're like, it's close enough.
It's similar.
But I had known, actually, I was tipped off by Sam Means, Daily Show writer, about the VR tech in this in this film of 1994, and it's just amazing. It's like the main character, Michael Douglas's character, works at this VR company in Seattle, and so they put on VR headsets. They do a demo, and they do is then enter a virtual file room.
Yeah, just a hallway full of files.
Pick out files. It's like the least imaginative type of technology.
And the least efficient type.
Exactly. It takes much more time and effort than looking up a file on a computer. But we'll get to it. But I love the moment when he's in that virtual space and Demi Moore's character appears in it, and it looks like they took the wireframe from those experiments with chimps, where they tried to see if they could make a chimp treat a wireframe with a nipple on it as a mother. It's like they took that wireframe and just stuck a headshot of Demi Moore on it, and it's just kind of hovering through this space. It looks terrible.
It's like lurching around like it's in the Money for Nothing video, and she starts blasting files with a laser to delete them.
And also,
that happens when a user accesses that from a computer, not the VR set. But she seems to have no idea that he's in there. It's weird that he is very aware when he's in there. Anyway, we can get into
there's also
but
we'll get to it. But also in Roger Ebert's review, he points out how would any company keep all of its most secure files in a demo of their new product that they're going to show to people?
That blew my mind too.
Yeah, I'm no cybersecurity guy.
Yeah, there's all of so-and-so's financial records. It's like, hey, watch it. Just use this as the... I
feel like there is a disclaimer as soon as you log in to the VR rig. They're like, this is all just for fun use.
Entertainment purposes.
But this is actual information. So
please don't use this real confidential information to save your job.
I find the lack of imagination about the technology super funny. I feel like sometimes people do really interesting things, like Minority Report, I feel like did future tech very interesting. But I feel like just to be like, how do files work in the future? Oh, more files. It just feels like if you were like during horse times thinking of like what a flying vehicle would be, and then you'd think it still needed to be a horse somehow,
with wings,
like a Pegasus, or whatever. That's like the only way your brain could imagine the future.
But to give credit to the people behind Disclosure, when Mark Zuckerberg was like, in the future, you'll be able to use Meta to have a meeting for work. And it was just like, you're just in a boardroom sitting at chairs next to people who are in the meeting with you in a virtual space. It was like, really? This is the best we can do with it? There's still a table? Like there's
Yeah.
I'm still next to somebody, but okay, Stu.
But I will say, another thing that drew me to this movie. Well, once I started watching it, because I was there for the like I wanted to see that virtual scene.
Yeah, you're there for the high-tech
I was there
shenanigans.
for the high-tech shenanigans.
Yeah.
But then I got there and I was watching the movie. And first of all, it also has this like, you know, this like warm, like 1990s Seattle loft office look.
There's a lot
like
of
there's something
woods
like
and
very
dark
like
brick.
yeah, like there's something very comforting about seeing that kind of stuff in that kind of movie.
Yeah.
But then you're like, okay, this is a movie about if sexual harassment happened to a man. And I was like, but wait, did we ever get the one for women? We never did.
Well, that's
No.
They just
I guess
jumped
9 to
the
5.
guys. 9 to 5, but that was like a comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like maybe there was a
Everything had
little
been
in
fixed
Tootsie.
by-
That was all we got. Like
Yeah.
there's just not. They just jumped
like
to like the horror of it happening to a man. Like you can only imagine it being terrible if it happened to a
yes.
man.
I mean, that is the main thing about this movie is like, am I going to say that like it's never happened this way? Of course not. But it like the percentages are way on the other side. But we're like, let's do this one
yeah,
first.
that's how it's.
Let's
And
I mean,
also, they talk about it as sexual harassment, but it is a full sexual assault scene. Like,
Yes.
Yes.
it is not sexual harassment. Like, come on, sit on my lap or whatever,
Well,
however
there's
that goes down.
There's the scene.
Oh no, it was chilling. I'm sorry.
The one scene in the movie that I felt like was starting to get under what this movie could have been is when Michael Douglas is being he's being interviewed as part of their arbitration or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and the guy's like
Mediation.
By the
The mediation.
sleaziest lawyer
by the sleaziest
like,
lawyer,
he's
and he's
incredible.
like, you didn't want it at all because you were there, you didn't have to be there, and it was like, oh, if this was a good movie, it would be a man being subjected to all the shit that a woman is subjected to
Yes.
but it only happens in that one scene,
Yeah.
and otherwise he's a superhero who can sneak in and out of hotel rooms and things like that. You know, it's
He is
a
Michael Douglas. This is like peak. File this movie in the category of Michael Douglas is the coolest dude and he drives women insane with lust.
yeah.
Yes, this is
There are
basic
many
instinct
movies
era
like this.
Michael Douglas, where
And
he
he
is every woman wants him so bad. Yeah,
And he's also like, he's he's very much the victim.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wins in the end. I also think, can I jump? I mean, in the end, well, whatever. I don't know how this
You can
works.
jump wherever you want.
But I do have something to say about the end.
We're
Well,
going
let's
to get
go
to the
through
end.
the
It's
plot a
okay.
little bit.
We can wait.
unfortunately,
More because-
we have a no spoilers policy. We never talk about the end of the
Never.
movie. We just say,
Never.
and now, audience,
We never
check it out at your local library. Don't take my word for it.
You have an
Okay.
exhaustive
So the movie-
synopsis.
Disclosure is broken up into 5 days. The first day, Monday.
Monday.
Tom, our hero, played by Michael Douglas, receives an email. As I mentioned before, all the emails in this movie, this is
Love it.
1994 emails.
Love
Can you
it.
imagine? They're all super animated. When you close an email, it crumples up like somebody crumpled
When
up
you
a piece
when
of
you
paper.
open it, it unfolds a piece of paper.
Ugh.
America Online existed at this point.
Ugh,
Like
that's-
It also starts with his daughter
Yeah.
saying, "Daddy, you got an email." Like it's a big event, you know,
Yeah,
because there just aren't
That
very
was the
many.
most
The inbox counts are so low in this. Whenever there's emails, it's like you get one at a time.
Yeah,
Well, that-
I'm
that
like,
was-
take me back to that time,
yeah,
please.
that was the biggest fantasy in the whole movie for me. Was not Demi Moore wanting to have sex with me, but was seeing my email count be 0. I was like, oh man, amazing. If only. Can you imagine? So I was just too aroused by that. by my email count being 0.
My unread emails, I'm just looking right
Oh,
now,
dear
are
Lord.
11,539.
Meredith, you're giving me stress.
I'm at roughly the same number, and my kids love to update me on what it is. They'll look over my shoulder and
How
they're
do you-
like, 11,000. It's gone up a lot since last time. And I'm like, all
How
right,
do you
all right.
live like this? You gotta.
I have 2
like-
children. I don't have time to just sit and answer
Mine
emails
just
all
says
day.
99 plus.
Well, you don't. I mean, you don't have to
a
answer
lot of
all
like
of them, but
fundraising emails, like
I
look
do get a
at
lot of
them,
fundraising as well, and I
delete
end
them.
up on a lot of.
you know.
Somehow I'll find myself subscribing to newsletters I don't remember subscribing
Yeah.
to.
Mhm,
Same.
Yeah, newsletters.
Also, the funny
Right.
thing to me about this email
Shoe
though is like
company.
the daughter prints it immediately, and I'm like, this has to be like a plot point later that they have a printout of this email, because otherwise, why would any person, even in this time in history, why would this happen this way?
It's trying
Doesn't-
to show
doesn't
off the
happen.
technology, the high tech.
Yeah.
I do remember though when email was first becoming a thing, and we were trying to get my mom on board, and she was resistant, and she just goes an email. Just fax me. Like the convenience of a fax.
Oh.
It's just, you know.
Oh, I can't believe your mom just came up with her own cool catchphrase. Okay, so he gets an email. We have an opening credit sequence where we get a tour of their lovely, just outside of Seattle home. We're hearing voiceover where his daughter mentions the email. She also is curious about what her dad is wearing around his neck. It's a tie. I guess he doesn't wear ties, although he wears a tie every single other scene of this movie. So I don't know.
I think he's so in fear of losing his job that the rest of the movie he's like gotta dress up, gotta gussy it. I can't wear he's in tech, so I assume he's usually wearing like a stained Rush t-shirt to work.
Well, he does also like in these early scenes, he is the most like sloppy dad version of Michael Douglas, and then he starts putting on, tailored suits as things go on. And Audrey was like, "What is Michael Douglas sexy? Why is he always supposed to be sexy in these movies?" I'm like, I don't know. Like he's a attractive man. I think it's his voice a lot. Yeah, he's got a great voice. He's got gravitas.
Yeah.
I think there's also an element of he is a pro. I think they're like, he's been in a bunch of sexy movies. Just put him in this one too.
Well, that's my mom for years and years had a big crush on like Richard Gere. And I never understood it until I finally saw American Gigolo. Where I was like, oh, he's incredibly sexy in this.
But also, isn't that also during like Pat Riley is sort of in the same category, the basketball coach.
Oh, okay, I can see that.
As like Michael Douglas, and I feel like he was a sex symbol of the time a bit. I feel like there was like a certain look.
He's also super tall.
That time.
There's a couple of guys at my gym who only call me Richard Gere, which I'm like, I don't think I look like him, but thank you. That's a huge compliment.
Well, I think now it's a little bit harder, partly because our idea of sexy man in mainstream culture it's not quite at the same level of that it has gotten closer to the long-running idea of sexy woman, which is young and incredibly fit, as opposed to Michael Douglas, who is a mature man who is in good shape, but he's not buff. And now it feels like...
And he's got that sick mullet.
Our sex symbols are what, like Channing Tatum and guys like that, who are unrealistic for a man, the same way that female sex symbols have always been unrealistic for women.
Well, also, he got stuck in this lane where he's very good at, and someone needs to be this guy, where he's like the kind of sleazy guy who... his dick gets him into trouble. Like, that was his thing.
His dick that he can't control because men can't. Like, there's also that element of this where it's like the body does what the body, like
that's true.
He couldn't resist.
The sex assault scene is amazing because it's like he's fighting as if the devil is tempting him, and he's going no, but his penis is just pulling all the blood from his brain. He just can't resist it. But what if this movie was called Dick's Closure, and his penis could talk to him, and his penis is like, we got to do this, and he's like, you're getting me into trouble. Stop. We can't do this anymore.
It would be a green netted looking penis with like a picture of a penis head.
Very lawnmower man.
Yeah, very VR
1994.
Penis. Yeah.
Who is the voice of this penis? 1994.
I mean, Matt Frewer could be a choice.
Matt Frewer would be perfect.
Yeah,
I feel like that's almost too polished though.
You're right.
Typecast as a penis.
I mean, there's also a version of it where it's Bobcat Goldthwait or Gilbert Gottfried. Yes. I mean, that's a different movie.
Bronson Pinchot, yeah.
Yeah, but doing the Balky voice.
You want it to be fun.
Yeah. Bronson Pinchot, it's almost like both names could be used as a euphemism for a penis.
I gotta say though, Dick's Closure sounds like, like a movie about a guy named Richard whose like wife dies and he's seeking closure on.
Yeah, or Dick's Sporting Goods that's just closing.
That's Alexander Payne movie. Okay, so we're
still in Monday.
So we're through the opening credits. That's great. Okay, so we learned that
and he gets some toothpaste on his tie too, and everyone has to comment on that.
Super important. I'm glad that.
Wait, why is he late in that first scene? Anyone know?
He's a terrible time manager.
Well,
he's late all the time.
He is bad at time management. I think he's with his kids, but he's not really doing that much to help with his kids. This whole family has issues with time management and balancing parenting and work. I'll just say that right off the bat. As someone who's quickly dying because I'm doing too good a job at it. They're bad at balancing it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we learned that he is up for a promotion and that his company, I think Digicom is the name.
Digicom.
They are about to have a merger with another company.
Digicom is, of course, a combination of digital and communism.
Oh, interesting. That's better than comedy is what I thought you were going to go with.
Digital and comedy. We're trying to bring comedy to the internet. It'll never work. Yeah.
Tom also has a cell phone. That was pretty fancy technology for back then, right? He has to take a ferry to work. He bumps
That's
into this.
cool.
He bumps into this like older guy who got laid off, and that guy is kind of the specter of potential unemployment that he compares himself.
This
to.
guy sucks too. He's like everything about him is retrograde and horrible and resentful and bitter and he's the villain of the movie as far as I'm concerned.
So
It's hard to be that sad on a boat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
you're on a ferry. It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's inspiring.
I was just thinking that I'm like, what can I do in my life so that I can take a ferry to work every day? And then I realized
Move
it's
to
move to
Staten
Staten
Island.
Island.
Move
and
to
I'm
Staten
like,
Island, yeah. That's
There's
what you have
also
to do.
the water taxi. I used to take the water taxi when I worked at Kimmy Schmidt in Greenpoint.
Uh-huh.
And I would bring my dog on it. And I just felt I would just hear the Let the River Run like the whole time. And sometimes I would even listen to it. And I was like, I can't believe this life I'm living right now. The wind blowing in my dog's ears.
I imagine you getting off
great.
the water taxi and like Mary Tyler Moore, instead of throwing her hat in the air, you throw the dog in the air and just freeze frames you smiling.
Stuck in a tree. Yeah.
Okay, so we see the Digicom office where he works, which is very like open plan. It's very progressive. There are plenty of glass brick walls, which I love.
I thought those were the height of
It's-
making it.
Man,
Yeah.
that's I need to do a run.
If you have glass brick walls, you are either in a successful billion-dollar company or a successful New Jersey hair salon. That's the two places you are.
Yeah, in both cases, very classy.
Success.
So Michael Douglas, Tom, has a Zoom call with the plant manager in Malaysia because there seems to be some kind of issue with the production. This has to do with microchips or some shit. It's very important.
So it's very important. They have two products this company is making: virtual reality file storage and a new CD-ROM drive that's supposed to move much faster than normal CD-ROM drives. And there's some kind of problem with what's coming. The quality control is bad, and the ROM drives are not working properly. Something has gotten into the assembly, and quality control is just down the toilet. And this is so much more important for the ultimate story of the movie than the sexual harassment. It's bonkers how much this movie eventually twists on product manufacturing chain decisions in a CD-ROM company. It makes the movie more exciting, right? If it's not about sex and power, it's about CD-ROM manufacturing.
Yeah, is that the sweetener? Is that the dessert for the vegetables of the of the sexual harassment?
It's like I'll sit through Demi Moore's shirt being torn open, but only if I can hear about what pitfalls there could be in trying to cheap out on CD-ROM manufacturing. Yeah,
But it's sort of like in The Firm when he got him on mail fraud.
Yeah. So there's a lot of rumors around the office about the merger. Tom was hoping that he was going to be promoted to vice president, but it looks like he might not get it, and that he might even lose his job. At one point, he slaps his assistant Cindy on the ass, and they do a close-up of it, and you're like, what? What is this guy doing?
Now I'm imagining it goes boom, 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 and closes up, and it's slower each time and louder each time.
So there's it turns out that yes, he is indeed passed over for promotion for Meredith, an ex-lover of his who helped negotiate this merger, and that if he wants to keep his job, he kind of has to placate her, right? Is that kind of the impression?
Yes, and I'll just say it right here. At this point, I already felt Michael Douglas did not deserve this promotion, and it was a fantasy that he was ever going to be in line. Everyone's like, "Oh, you didn't get it, huh?" And I'm like, he seems to not be very good at his job. He's not. He can't even be counted on to get to work on time. He's always.
And he also has like the first thing we see of him in the office is him like smiling to himself, admiring a set of legs walking up a staircase.
Yes.
And like then he pats his assistant on the butt with a file folder. Like he just doesn't.
Well, and I think that this is the movie's clumsy attempt at like being like, even though he's, in the right in this larger situation, he is like
got to learn
part of this.
Yeah, we're all of us sinners.
System.
It's institutional misogyny, and he'll learn later. He'll have his lesson. Yeah,
right. But it does sort of like make the movies seem weird. Like you're supposed to sympathize with this guy right from the start.
Well, I think that's the thing is I think the movie does expect you to sympathize with him right from the start because he's Michael Douglas and he's a cool dude, but he's trying hard. He really wants to get Disneyland tickets for this colleague of his, and but he's not likable. And to me, at least, he was.
But Dennis Miller is way worse.
Well, that's the thing. You want to make Michael Douglas seem cool.
He's
Cast him as Dennis Miller.
Yeah. He talked about her having nipples like pencil erasers. And mentioning
in my head
the
forever
limbic system. He really leaned into saying the limbic system.
There was a period of time when, in the 90s, when people were like, let's put Dennis Miller in supporting roles and everything.
Was this before the net or after?
This was a year before the net, right? This is 94.
Okay, so he probably got the net because they're like, he knows high-tech shit, right?
Yeah, he knows computers. I don't remember how this lines up with Murder at 1600, though, which he's also in. Like, yeah, Dennis Miller, I think he was making a big push.
Bordello of Blood.
Good question.
That I think was after this, but I don't remember by how much. I mean, by then he'd moved his way up to starring roles.
So we're really running through this plot here, but I do want to take a second to point out that that Michael.
So you think Dennis Miller comes from a line of Millers?
I mean, I can only assume. Do you think when they put out the movie We Are the Millers, he was like, "What the fuck? I'm right here.
I got to sue them," and his lawyer's like, "You can't. No, you can't." Own the name Miller.
When that long gestating adaptation of The Miller's Tale, Chaucer's The Miller's Tale, makes it to the screen.
Yeah, he's all over it.
Fingers crossed.
But what I was going to
Finally,
point out
someone's
is
telling my story. He opens up the book and reads it. He's like, "What the fuck is this? This isn't English."
So it's implied that Michael. Well, it's not implied. It's said that Michael Douglas and Demi Moore's characters were former lovers. His children in the movie are like 6, 8. So and there's a 20-year age difference between the two actors. So
they refer to her as being 33,
which is only 1 year older than her age at the time of filming it.
I think we're supposed to assume 50. Michael Douglas is a slightly younger man, not much younger, but a slightly younger man than he is in real life in this one.
It feels like, because if anything, if she's 33, they would probably have been together about 10 years before this. I don't know. It just feels...
She could have been in her early 20s and he's in his 40s. Yeah. You know, it's
but
gross,
he also
but
just
that
can
happens.
have that look of stress that comes from building CD-ROMs.
That's true, yeah.
It ages
a lot of hard years.
It's like the presidency.
Yeah,
he's aged
actually
terribly.
25 years old in the movie. Okay, so she approaches him and suggests that they have a meeting after it's announced that she's the new VP. A meeting in her office at 7 p.m. What? And have some drinks. This doesn't feel very professional.
No, not at all.
His coworkers all make weird sexual harassment jokes. It is not funny. He meets her in her office, which is, partially renovated. They share a bottle of wine that she picked out that's his favorite. It starts with chatting. It then leads to a back rub and her assistant locking the door. There's a lot of weird comments about his family and his wife.
He has the weirdest comment here, where he shows her a picture of his family, and she says, "Oh, she looks like she keeps the fridge stocked," which I took to mean, as she intends it, that looks like a domestic person. You're no longer with a wild girl like me.
Yeah.
You're with a domestic person. But he goes, "Yeah, she didn't lose all the baby weight after the last kid." It's like, one, she's thin. Like she's not. She has no extra weight. But also, it's such a weird. It's that.
Well, they were trying. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was saying, if this was a better movie, I feel like that would be a character. As it is, it's meant to be, I guess, him revealing an anxiety he feels that he's not with a woman that he is as attractive as she used to be or something. But the movie doesn't support that, and it comes out of nowhere, and it's a bad movie. So it just comes off as like a weird thing for him to say.
It's like you could feel them doing the math of what would sound bad in the deposition when it was brought up later.
Uh-huh. Yes,
it's like,
exactly.
But it could have just been like, a picture of her at the beach, and she just goes like, "Huh, one piece, huh?" Like it could like to kind of be like, okay, she's had kids, you're not.
Remember when we used to go to the beach and I wore one piece, just the bottoms, and he's like, "Ooh, I remember when we were so sexy together."
Yeah.
Oh man, Elliot, you are missing your calling for writing erotic thrillers.
Yeah. Remember when you used to remember when I just wore the bottoms and you copper toned me? That's when he uses he bites the back of it and she runs around. Yeah.
Love it.
And they're cartoons.
Oh man.
Oh, and he's in a dog costume. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I should
a man
introduce
in
him
a
to my
dog
friend.
costume and a man in a cat costume.
Okay, so at some point she gets distracted, so he goes to make a call on his cellular phone. He thinks he's calling his friend, but she immediately attacks him. She begins assaulting him. He keeps saying no. She keeps pushing him. Eventually, he turns it around and kind of seems into it, and they are about to have some violent sex, and then he sees their reflection in a picture, and he's like, I can't do this. He runs away, and she threatens him.
Yeah, and this is another instance of the movie. A better movie, maybe this would be a good choice. Like, it's trying to muddy the waters a little bit in a way that, like,
The work of Muddy Waters does.
Well, just the complicated,
it's
are
a
you trying to say
complicated
like
encounter.
it's complicated? There's no perfect victim. There's
Right.
no, like that. Yeah.
Exactly. And like the fact that he seems into it at one point and then says no later, like that should be like the no should stand. And I think it's putting up against like if the genders were flipped. But in a movie that stars Michael Douglas, a man known for like being in like sleazy erotic thrillers, I do think it makes you weirdly less sympathetic to him here. That like, I don't know.
And I feel like what they were trying to do with his turn a little bit is like to be like the man can't control himself around this siren.
Yeah.
And like whereas like the version of women, it's like, more like disassociating or whatever
Yeah.
would
Right,
happen.
pushed
And
into-
he became the aggressor briefly because it was like she's just far too sexy. Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's that he's if it was a better movie, I could see it that like he doesn't want to do this, but he is feeling he feels that like he used to be this sex machine with her, and now he lives a pretty domestic kind of dull everyday life. And there's a little bit of he can recapture a moment of when he was younger and more exciting, but also that he is possibly seeing an opportunity to reassert control over the woman who has stolen the job he thought was rightfully his, that like, but he knows he really shouldn't do it, that he could have, like, again, if it's a better movie, he would be a more complicated character and these different drives could be going on all at the same time. But instead, it comes off as, it feels like a superhero being hit with a power dampening beam and going like, I must resist, but can't. Oh God, no. Like that, it feels so, or there's something kind of like she has a magical hold over him that he can't, that he's giving into and then can't quite because she made him drink a potion or something. Like it comes off, I found the scene, it should be a really like terrifying scene if it's done right, but I found it very funny because their attempts to be sexy are also so over the top,
The initial massage, I feel like we watch with 2024 eyes is like, this is oh God, gross.
The minute she says rub my shoulders and he starts doing it, it's like no.
Oh, it's like he's just like, all right. I feel like he's not really alarmed at that point.
He's like, you got to play the game. I rub Donald Sutherland's shoulders all the time. That's how I got my job.
I feel like the movie also
he's so much taller than Michael Douglas.
falters a little bit here because it's like, okay, we want to make this a horrifying experience that Michael Douglas goes through, but also like, this is an erotic thriller with Demi Moore, so we want to make it sexy first.
Yeah, well, we also want the audience,
really
want the male
weird.
audience to be able to come and like fantasize that they're with. What if I got harassed by Demi Moore? Oh man, amazing! Like I think the movie is the fact is I think you hit it right, Dan. That like it's a sleazy movie.
Yeah.
so it wants to have it both ways and like have a message, but also get the audience aroused.
Wait, I did find a really great. I was just like Googling disclosure reviews at the time, and I found this is how Roger Ebert's review of Disclosure starts. Disclosure contains an inspiring, terrific shot of Demi Moore's cleavage in a Wonder Bra, surrounded by 125 minutes of pure goofiness. Whatever. But I just like to be like celebrating like her cleavage. Basically,
Yeah.
is
So
like
Roger Ebert,
that's the best part.
I think one of the things that maybe doesn't age as well about his work, but which I actually in some ways admire for its honesty is he's totally open to when he's a perv. And he's like, I liked this movie because these ladies were naked in it. Like he's like that's a value too. And maybe
he was
it's because
a horny man who wrote a movie for Russ Meyer, but also, yes, that's a weird lead for a movie
That's
about
true.
sexual
Like
harassment.
the best part of the film.
Yeah.
I mean, I also
Saying.
wonder if that's him trying to take the classy way out of answering the audience's question of, is Demi Moore naked in this movie? Which at this point was, I think, the question every male audience member was asking about every movie that Demi Moore put out basically, at this point, was she naked in it? And he could be like, well, I'll mention that she's in a Wonder Bra, and that'll be telling my perv audience that she's not fully naked in it.
My perv followers that I've cultivated.
Yeah.
So,
It's a dog whistle to the purse.
so speaking of dogs, Michael Douglas goes
Michael
home.
Douglas.
Yep.
He has no dog.
That would be,
Spell
man.
that on a calculator.
That's the Rover Doggerfield or whatever the fuck, starring Michael Douglas.
If Rover Dangerfield had been a hit, and then they're like the sequel, Michael Douglas.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, so he goes home. He has very noticeable scratches on his chest, and he has to hide them from his.
It looks like he was
very
attacked by a
understanding-
jaguar.
So
Yes.
I was my wife and I watched this movie together, and we both suggested ways that he could explain why his 50-year-old man chest is slowly healing from scratches on his chest. Okay, I'm not going to say who proposed which suggestion. You can, but I want you guys to vote on which one you think works the best. The first is the next morning he immediately wakes up and goes to the animal shelter and he buys a cat.
Okay.
Okay, or he initiates sex with his wife, and very early on, he's like, "Ow, babe, what'd you do to my chest?" Okay, so which one do you think is the better, more feasible
I
option?
mean, I don't think either of them particularly would be convincing, but I would have to go with the second one simply by virtue of the size of the claws.
Distance
involved.
Yes.
between scratches is too small.
Yeah, you would have
It's
to
too
get a
wide
very
for
large
a-
cat.
You'd have to get a jaguar.
I
Like,
adopted
yeah.
this jaguar.
by the way, I
Jaguar.
adopted this stray jaguar. I brought it back. What? We have
Okay.
small children in the house. Oh, they're gonna love it. They can ride it. It'll be fantastic. And then the rest of the movie is actually a family in peril movie about a jaguar that's loose in the house.
Honey, your favorite movie's Bringing Up Baby, right? Well, guess what?
Had Roar been made at this point? Yeah.
Yes, Roar had been made at this point.
But he does. I thought this scene was so funny for, like, he's constantly not talking to her head on while he's having this conversation while in the shower, and then when he puts the towel on, he's draping it in a way that no person has ever put a towel around themselves to cover up the scratches.
And he comes home late, and he's like, the first thing he says is, "Honey, can you get me a beer?"
I know
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah.
He does not come off well.
And it's not
To
and
drink
also-
in the
and it's
shower?
not like she's in the
That's
kitchen.
shower
Like,
beers are amazing.
she's in bed. She's in bed doing work, and he's like, "Can you get me a beer?" Which means she has to get up and go downstairs. Like you just
She has
came
to
from there.
plug in his cellular.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Now, Meredith, have you had a shower beer? I had this sold to
love
me. I'm curious about.
I drank like in high school once or twice. I drank whatever alcohol I found, like threw in a water bottle in the shower.
Yeah, as
Once or
a
twice.
longtime night bartender, they'll like get home from work and drink a tall boy of, I don't know, whatever gross cheap beer I can drink while taking a shower before bed was like the best thing ever.
Talk about
so I had
suds.
this
Okay, go on.
sold to me as like a great experience. Like, oh, you got to get a cold beer. You go into the shower, and I got to admit, I kept
Too much work.
all I could think about was how much water was getting into, like hot water was getting
That's
into
what
this
I would think
beer I
about.
was
You're
having.
drinking
Yeah.
Yeah, drink it
shower
faster.
water.
Yeah.
That's because you got to chug it. The thing you need in a shower, which is a time limit that you need to really get done with, which is chug that beer fast.
Or you need like a plastic, very big beer helmet that you
Yeah.
can put on that
Yes.
keeps you, like an umbrella thing that you can
Well,
put
it's
on
like
your
a
head
hair-
so you
it's
can
like a-
drink.
like a
Like
shower
a bonnet,
cap.
Yeah.
It's a shower
Shower
cap
cap or
with
bonnet.
beers on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
This guys,
I
we got to stop this podcast right now. And make that. This is our millions.
I do want to point out that this whole time his wife is being very understanding and she's being very
She's
supportive,
cool.
especially when dealing with the fact that he is, he's visibly disappointed about not getting the promotion. She's like, "You should just quit. We'll figure it out." And he's like, "Quit?"
But every wife he's ever had in every movie is wonderful.
Yeah.
Anne Archer in Basic Instinct,
Yeah.
like they're all the greatest women that are stunningly beautiful, but not considered the hot ones
Uh-huh.
a little bit.
Mhm.
Like anyway,
Yeah, that's Michael Douglas, I guess, has a type. There's specifically a message. He gets a message that the next morning's meeting is being pushed back. This message was relayed to him by his wife, who received a phone call from Meredith, and he just accepts this. He's like, "Oh, great, I get to sleep in."
Now I would think pushed forward. Pushed back makes me think that the meeting is happening earlier, which is
Pushed
actually
up.
what happens. Pushed up.
I would say push up.
Wait,
is
you
Yeah,
think
pushed
that
up, I could
pushed
see, yeah.
back means earlier?
Yeah,
The meeting's
back in
been
time.
pushed back.
Gotta go back in time.
But
No,
The meeting's been
that
pushed
doesn't
up.
make any sense
yeah,
at all.
pushed up means it's earlier. Back is later. Always.
The
Well,
meeting's been thrown forward.
Is
this is good for me to know before I get into the high stakes world of CD-ROM manufacturing. That I know.
So-
that I
Yeah,
know
this is
the
why your
office lingo.
CD-ROM career has stalled out, Elliot. You've been
Yeah.
missing all these meetings.
This could be it. Also, I do think that the CD-ROM stands for cats, dogs, rhinos, other mammals, which is apparently not what it stands for.
And then he has a nightmare about Donald Sutherland making a move on him.
Yeah.
That was great scene. Very, very telling. Now we're on to Tuesday. Hey guys, what a week, right? It's only Tuesday. We get he shows up late to the meeting. There's a VR demo. Now we talked about this VR. It's pretty cool, right?
It's pretty cool. You're in a hallway of files. There's an angel that looks like the lead programmer who is not very good at helping you with the things that you
No.
need with the software. It is incredibly underwhelming, but everyone acts as if this is the coolest thing they've ever seen in the history of science.
Look, I don't want to insult this actor. He's kind of an unusual looking fellow, and then they put his face on an angel, which makes it look all the weirder. And it's like, this is like, they decided to like, I don't know. I feel like if I turned around and I saw this angel, like, can I help you? I'm like,
Yeah.
ah!
Yeah.
Bring Clippy back.
Yeah, you're like, I didn't know I was playing Doom.
What?
I feel like they were trying to play that part for comic relief.
Yeah.
I
But
think
it just,
they were.
Wasn't
I think that was supposed to be a
quite
joke.
hitting.
That was not a great
like
face for an
you
angel.
keep putting your face on things. Like it's the only
Yeah.
face we have right now. Like I feel like it's supposed to be sleight of hand, so you're not noticing the plot points that come back later,
Yeah.
I'll distract you.
or the
enough.
fact that like Donald Sutherland's full financial details are in the demo for
Yeah.
entertainment purposes only.
In
A
this-
list of
that
his
they-
fears, his full schedule.
Yeah.
His
the
psychiatric
call
report.
sheet for the movie.
Mhm.
Pictures
Okay.
of him in blackface when he was in college. All that stuff's there.
You
yeah.
know he has those. So
That character, not Donald Sutherland, the real
of
actor.
course.
Yeah.
So Michael Douglas is under fire for showing up late to the meeting. And he's also under fire because Meredith has spilled all the beans for the various production issues they're having in Malaysia. And he is not prepared to answer some of these questions.
But partially because he brings up the issues to her during their initial meeting where the sexual assault happened, and she tells him the best thing to do is to say nothing.
It is.
But
this
then
is,
and then she during the meeting brings it all up, and he sticks to that story
this
of the
part is
advice
so
she gave
funny.
him.
It's so funny. Yeah, that he's like, well, she assaulted me and she lied about when the meeting is, but I better stick with her strategy and
Stick
not
with
throw
her
things off. So
Like,
he's like
yeah.
quoting things she said to him, and it's like, dude, she's obviously not your friend. Like, why are you doing this? You know. But
But also, yeah, he could be like, yeah, no, because I brought these up to you last night, and you told me not to say anything.
yeah.
Could have maybe, and then the credits roll.
Yeah, like one of the best bits is when he like repeats one of her talking points verbatim, and a guy's like, that doesn't mean what you think it means. Like,
Yeah.
she like totally turns on. It's so funny. So
He's
his
a
next-
moron. He should not have been promoted to vice president. Let's just say that right there. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes
No,
to
he
talk
doesn't
to
deserve it.
Phil, who's what, the guy from Happiness. What other stuff's he?
Oh, Dylan. What's his
Yeah,
name?
he's
Yeah,
great.
he's
Yeah.
Kurt Connors in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Who
He's
has
in lots
like
of stuff.
bad guy hair gel.
Yes.
Right? Like
He
his,
was on-
his
he was on The
hair is very
Americans.
precise
Why am I
in a way
forgetting
that
his
you're
name?
like, he's bad.
Yeah, I keep thinking. Why am I? I also can't remember. I keep hearing like
Dylan Baker?
He's
That's-
married.
Thomas is
He's
not his
married to
name. That's a-
someone.
that's a
Is he married
poet.
to Jennifer Grey?
Oh, really?
Wow.
Is that right?
So-
could be possible. We'll get to the
We're
bottom
gonna-
of this one.
So that
So-
actor's Dylan Baker, who's also
Dylan
he's
Baker.
in a lot of good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he-
He's great.
and
He's
he
a
is
great
like
actor.
he's kind of he's Michael Douglas's boss, I guess, and like a liaison between him and Donald Sutherland, who's
Well-
the head of the company.
Well, also, yeah, and he is the one who pretends to be Michael Douglas's friend at the beginning, but is like plotting against him. And it is one of these situations where you're like, don't you understand? That's Dylan Baker. Like he's Dylan Baker with like round glasses and his hair slicked
And
back.
slicked
This
back
guy's
hair.
not your buddy.
Yep,
Oh.
he's got the bad guy hair gel in. That's so popular in the 80s and 90s, right?
Nope. He's not married to Jennifer Gray.
But who is married to Jennifer Grey?
There's only one way to find out. Call her up.
Clark Gregg.
Right.
But
Oh,
he
that's
is
right. He's married to Becky Ann Baker.
Becky Ann Baker, who is
Becky Ann. That's who I
on
was thinking
Freaks
of.
and Geeks.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
She's great.
That's
And
awesome.
girls.
I knew
yeah.
he was married to someone.
They're a very
awesome.
talented couple,
And,
the two of them.
And
That's great.
actor.
Okay, so he goes to Phil and he's like wants to make a claim against Meredith, but it turns out she's beaten him to the punch. She's already made a sexual harassment claim against him. What? And he's like, that's not what happened. And Phil says, he lays out the plot of the movie. He goes, a woman harassing a man, which should have been on the poster. There's another line that should also be on the poster.
With an interrobang after it.
So he starts getting mysterious emails. He's been getting a number of mysterious emails. At this point, all emails are mysterious because how many emails were you guys getting in 1994? I was getting like none. And these are ones that have no sender's address on them, and they're just saying like cryptic messages. It kind of matters later. It doesn't really matter.
This made me scrunch up my face and be like, is that a thing that was possible? Did that because he kept going to see who was sending it, and it's like no sender available. I'm like, I don't think that.
I bet there was a way to hide the identity, to hide, the same way you can use
like a VPN or
yeah,
something.
today you can use a VPN.
But you would get like an email address. You wouldn't just be like the email program wouldn't tell you like.
Yeah, but
I
this
don't
is
know,
also
buddy.
a pretty
Nothing
dumb
for ya.
movie.
But the twist still like you could have had an email address
Yeah.
based on the twist.
Yes,
that
that's
comes
true.
later about it being from a friend.
Yeah.
And I think they're just trying to create suspense. That's a good
Yeah,
movie.
the
Just trying to make
score's
the audience
doing
ask
that.
questions. Yeah.
So one of this email,
Look,
like,
hey,
does email do that?
We're talking about it, right? So it must have worked.
this email brings a link to a news story about a sexual harassment claim that has information about the lawyers who helped that claim go through. So he reaches out to those lawyers and meets with them. Those lawyers, of course, are played by longtime character actress Roma Mafia and Donald Logue, a very young Donald Logue playing a character
Babyface Donald
named.
Logue.
I love this name, Chance Gear.
I don't
Sounds
think
like a fucking Cars character.
and I don't think he's ever mentioned by name in the movie.
Gear.
So they're probably like, hey, let's just give him a crazy name.
Or is he like, dude, can I have a name? I'm just called Other Lawyer. What about Chance Gear? And they're like, all right, just let him have Chance Gear.
Sure, it's
He's
fine.
been talking about it.
His own name is Donald Logue, so he's used to strange names. So let's just give him this one. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, hey, Michael Crichton, you know high-tech stuff. What's a cool name? He's like, Chance Gear.
But she's basically supposed to be Gloria Allred, right? Like,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's her, who she's supposed to be. Yeah.
So Michael Douglas just wants to settle. He doesn't want his wife to find out about it, which is fucked up, dude. Like, he should have told his wife a long time ago,
Yes,
right?
he should have told her the night it happened, which is hard. Sometimes you feel ashamed, you don't know, like that happens. But also that he didn't mention afterwards.
What?
But also the idea.
I just gotta message your wife real quick that sometimes this happens to Elliot.
Yeah, sometimes it happens to me. I don't know how to tell her. But the fact that he can have a legal settlement with his employer over a sexual harassment charge and his wife is never going to know about it is a very strange. That's a big thing to hide.
Again, this is like a clumsy attempt to like parallel like women get a hard time because like, oh, you didn't document this, you didn't like do the perfect, you weren't perfect right afterwards, but it is frustrating as a viewer to watch it and be like, man, like you are really making it hard on yourself right now, Michael Douglas.
The wife had no idea that she was even a former lover.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if they wanted to lean into more about why he didn't say anything, like they could have laid in a scene where she's feeling insecure about being something where he's just like, oh, this is not the time. Like, I don't want to.
That would be
bother
treating her
with
more like a human being and less like a prop that exists to either support or cause trouble for Michael Douglas.
Right.
I did think it was very funny that she becomes nicer as the movie goes along, the wife, I think for very like cynical like screenwriting reasons of, we want to be less sympathetic to her at the beginning so we sort of understand Michael Douglas, and then later on she's like the good wife you can go back to. But like she's introduced being like complaining about how he's nice to people who are lower on the totem pole than him. Like, you're the only one who sucks up to subordinates. And it's like, wow, you're an asshole. And then later on, she becomes extremely understanding.
She does
And-
drive him to the ferry, though. That's always nice.
That's nice. And he is asking her for a favor to arrange for Disney tickets for his coworker.
Yeah.
So it is putting her out a little bit. But as someone who has a Disney worker in the family and is constantly asking him for tickets, I get both sides of the situation. I get why you would want that favor and also why you'd be annoyed by doing it. Yeah.
So look, Michael Douglas's access to the computer mainframe is reduced.
Wow,
That's
he's
going to
using the
play
technical terms.
an important role later in a very exciting VR scene.
Very
he goes
exciting.
he goes to a charity event where Dennis Miller blabs to his wife that Tom's sexual harassment claim might have something to mess up the merger. His wife immediately defends Tom and shows solidarity. When Michael Douglas then explains to his wife what happened, he does it in the worst way possible. He's like, she started kissing me, I guess, and then maybe took my pants down.
She was about to blow me, and then I was like, oh yeah, I got a wife. Anyway, I got to get out of here.
But it's also, I feel like that hinged so much on, did you have sex? As if nothing else matters.
Well, this was
other stuff doesn't count, baby.
I mean, this was in the 90s. I feel like that was the debate. Like when Bill Clinton cheated on his wife, everyone was like, well, it wasn't really sex. And it's like, well, the idea that if your penis was inside a body part of another woman that wasn't your wife, it didn't count as sex and therefore wasn't an affair.
Right.
Was an open question in the
And it's
mid
all
90s.
like-
it is sort of like I didn't inhale, kind of the same argument of like, I didn't smoke pot. 'cause
It's
I didn't
also like
inhale.
a super like
blowjob is, I guess.
heteronormative way of looking at it, because then it's like, okay, well, I guess then gay people never have sex if it's
What
just
a
like this
loophole.
one kind of intercourse is the
Yeah, that's what that club, the loophole, is all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you do there.
In their argument, there is a scene where his wife asks, how attractive on a scale of 1 to 10? And Michael Douglas grudgingly gives Demi Moore a 9. Okay, that's not bad, right?
He starts with 8, and then when he sees his wife doesn't believe that, he upgrades her to 9.
And then she says a line, which again should be on the poster. She says, nothing happens until it happens to you. And that's like kind of the message of the movie, right? Is that men can't understand sexual harassment until they themselves have been sexually
and I do think that
It's also the plot of the
is-
movie. It could happen to you, right?
let me double check. You're right.
that is like sort of like the most
That's the best
charitable
line.
viewing of this movie, where it's just like, okay, we understand that you lack empathy, so like let's put you in this situation. I mean, it's like all of the old like science fiction-y anti-racism things where it's
Yes.
like, oh no, a white person is black for a day, which is an offensive, weird, like science fiction blackface thing that we had to sort of get through so we could not do it anymore.
Yeah,
but-
or like Tootsie or something, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, until I dressed up as a woman and pretend to be a woman, I didn't realize that women have problems. You know, it's
Yeah,
Yeah,
now
the
you get it.
only way to show it is to see a guy going through it.
yes,
Yeah.
because you have to take the
animal testing. We have to do that for animal testing, for the
Yeah.
meat trade,
You have to-
for
you have to-
everything.
You have to take the default human being, a straight white male, the original that God started
Yeah.
with, and is therefore the basis of,
of
all
course,
humanity,
the basis.
and just put them through it. Yeah, not one of the variants.
Factory setting. We know that.
Setting. But God's like, let me
That's what
let me get
man
back to
is.
factory settings on this so I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
reboot. Yeah,
I want like a regular human.
like God would an Italian do? I said a regular default
No.
human. No.
Not a macaroni rascal.
Now I wish when I was a kid there was a Ninja Turtles knockoff called the Macaroni Rascals about pasta loving mice.
I love that you guys know what that means.
Oh yeah. Is there Macaroni Rascals merch to be found anywhere? That's
No, I can make some.
Okay.
I love to make things. I make things all the time. I made Divorced Dad Sweetlets hats, but you know that the Macaroni Rascals is what they called in
man.
Japan,
Yeah.
what they called the Jersey Shore show.
It's a better title in some ways. In some
the
ways, it's a
real
worse
life,
title.
the real life adventures of the Macaroni Rascals is how it translates.
I didn't know about the real life
Sure,
adventure.
Well,
Yeah.
that makes it sound like a 1960s Disney
Stuart
live action
Little.
comedy.
yeah.
Anyway,
okay. So enough about Macaroni Rascals. We are on Wednesday. Man,
I
this
gotta
week's
say-
just flying by.
This like cut to Wednesday made me laugh so much because like
me too. I laughed really hard when I saw that
it
too.
had like this dramatic sting. Like it felt like it was like a Shining like cut to like a chyron. It was so.
And it is, it was by that point in the movie they had forgotten they were naming the days as it went
Yeah.
by.
Yeah.
So it was like,
They
oh
didn't
yeah, we're
need to
doing
do
this.
that.
Oh yeah. So
Just
we
show that boat going to work. You get what's happening.
Other markers of time and what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have the start of mediation. This is not a trial; it's just mediation. We get Tom's side of the story. He is being grilled by this evil lawyer character, and this is probably my favorite scene of the movie, where the lawyer keeps specifying. He very clearly lays out the definition of boner, which I found very funny.
Well, there's also he's like you talked to your colleagues about how she gave you a boner, and in that scene, Dennis Miller is doing all the boner talk. Like Michael Douglas is just kind of like,
he said,
"Come on, guys, come on." And so all he has to say is
I
like,
definitely have liftoff, is what he said.
It's, all he had to say is like, "No, I didn't. The other guys were," and I was trying to get them to stop. But instead, he's like, "You know how guys talk to each other. You know how it is," which is the sleaziest thing you could say. Yeah,
No,
you know, we're just playing grab ass.
Well, could you please clue me in? But isn't a boner a term for an erection?
Well, the only thing that was kind of good, like the one thing was like, but you laughed. It's like, but he should have said, yeah, because I was like trying to get out of the conversation. It was a defense mechanism or something, because that's an argument people use.
Your Honor, I meant it like the Joker in that panel that gets put around on the internet sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, they knew what they were doing when they wrote that Batman comic. They knew exactly what they were doing. Yes.
Okay.
He uses the word boner like 15 times throughout the story.
We were talking about the character from Growing Pains.
But isn't the character from Growing Pains named his name a reference to that? Oh, you got me. I don't even watch Growing Pains. I don't know. My story's falling apart.
We get her
I
side of
can't show you that smile again. You know, like in the song.
We get her side of the story, and it feels like everything that happened, every bit of that interaction feels like it was all part of a setup for her to catch him and to turn the tables on him.
She's woven quite a web, and she's caught her fly.
Thank you. Yeah, and his lawyer manages to, when cross-examining, I guess, points out that the bottle of wine they were drinking was specifically a favorite bottle of wine of his, and that she had sought it out previously. She acted like it was just a bottle of wine she had lying around, but no. This shows like premeditated behavior.
But one random question.
Yep.
How did he not know she was working in operations for that company when she had worked there for months?
Another reason why he is not good.
Yeah.
At
Yeah,
his
like
job.
he does. You should know kind of the top brass of the infrastructure of the company that you're in.
I think if they made it seem like if the company felt bigger, it's supposed to be, I think, a huge company. And so it's like he's in charge of manufacturing and he doesn't know who does the other stuff. But the company never feels that big. So he should know. The idea that his ex-lover is now in a very high position at the company, you'd think he would hear about the name at least,
I agree.
Even if she was at a different... Like they mentioned that there might be other branches. There's a branch in Austin that's closing. Ugh.
He can't get assigned to that. He can't take that offer.
Oh, but also that felt also very Catholic churchy, where they're like, "Well, if you've sexually harassed, what we're going to offer you is to move you to Austin." But if you truly believe that guy was a horrible sexual assaulter, sexual harasser, you would fire him, not move him to Austin.
They have this big merger, and they don't want to jeopardize it by being seen to properly deal with a sexual harassment problem.
Right.
So that it's better to pretend it didn't exist. I do like. There's one.
No
one
HR. I haven't seen HR.
Yeah.
Did anyone
Transferring to Austin their version of saying go live on a farm upstate?
Yeah, I think so. There are a couple lines I liked in it, and there's one where Donald Sutherland, they go, we offered him the lateral move to Austin, but he wouldn't take it. And Donald Sutherland's like, lateral move to Austin. That's like a lateral move from Duck to L'Orange. And I was like, that's a pretty good line. That's a good line.
What was the name of the lawyer? He also had a hilarious line about her.
Maybe she changed her name.
It's like Claudia Alvarez or something. No, wait, what is that?
Catherine Alvarez. She changed her name to TV.
Goes, yeah.
Oh, you say it.
No. He goes, Catherine Alvarez. She'd change her name to TV listings if she thought it would get her in the paper more.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's TV listings.
That's one where you have to annotate it for the young people now. You're like, back in the day, you didn't choose what you watched on TV. It just aired at time, and you'd want to know when it was, and the newspaper would tell you when the TV shows were.
Yeah. For an evil boss, Donald Sutherland seems like a fun guy. He's got some good jokes.
Who faced no consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he skates by on a lot of Donald Sutherland charm, but I'm a big fan of Donald Sutherland, so maybe that's why he works for me. I don't know.
Also, we find out that Demi Moore has gone through at least 10 assistants. Male assistants have all quit in the last few years. That is a red flag.
Although that doesn't really make sense with the later
No, it doesn't.
revelations. But
I mean, she could be both a predator and someone who is maneuvering Michael Douglas to become the scapegoat for the manufacturing problems. I mean,
She's
could be
like,
doing
I've
two
got
bad
just
things.
the move.
yeah. I've been practicing for this all my life.
Yeah, I've been
They say
training.
that
We don't
luck
know
is
how
when
far
opportunity
back this
meets
goes.
preparation.
Yeah.
There's a scene where his lawyer, Catherine Alvarez, takes his wife for food at the Pike Place Market, which looks great. I love the Pike Place Market. But there's a weird moment where his lawyer says something like, "My husband asked me out many times. These days, he would be too frightened of getting charged with sexual harassment to ask me out at all." Like it's
Or
implying,
he would get once and have to move on, and that would be it. So
Yeah.
her whole life would have not have happened.
Yeah. That's her sliding doors moment.
Sorry,
But like,
Cinderella.
yeah, it was this weird moment of like, why are we doing this?
Well, I think the movie it does not want to take any but the most basic stand because it doesn't want to piss people off or because it wants to seem, maybe it's trying to go for complexity, but it's failing really badly. But it feels like the movie is like, sexual harassment is obviously wrong, but sometimes when it's romantic, maybe.
But it's also it's not a friendly environment to say you were sexual. Like at that time, there weren't a lot of like places to go where you would be supported and say, "Hey, I was sexually harassed at work."
Mhm.
Like for that on Demi Moore's first day to be her move, and everyone accepts it internally as like this is a normal thing that a woman might do because that's like it feels more like it's more like a male fear than it is like at all how anything worked at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this movie, the engine of this movie is male fear.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really is.
well,
I mean,
later
it's
when
like,
Demi Moore is she gives that speech about like now you need it's signed in triplicate before you have sex or something like that. Like that
the
feels like
UN has to.
yeah. That's right. It feels like that's the movie really stating its case in a way. Like that's the movie speaking honestly, which sucks. And it reminds me of was on You Must Be the Member of This.
I mean, it
They're
doesn't
talking-
suck for me because I'm super into the UN being aware of all my sexual activity.
Yeah, you sound
Yeah, well, like,
either
That's
way.
part of my kink.
You send those letters to them all about it. Yeah.
No one
with,
takes
like,
my
To every
drawings.
delegation you send it to?
Yeah. I make a little drawing of everything.
But I think it was on You Must Remember This. They were talking about how with Basic Instinct, Sharon Stone is basically playing her character like a man acting sexually. You know, she's a woman, but she's doing the things that men do. And the reviewers at the time were like, what is this monster? Like, what is this mutant demon?
Yes.
You know,
okay.
Absolutely.
other than murdering people. Most men do not end up murdering their partners.
Back at work, Donald Sutherland seems to want to settle, and they're like, why would he want to do that? Then they bring Michael Douglas's assistant, Cindy, in to do some testimony, and she reveals a pattern of behavior that is unsettling on the part of Michael Douglas, involving back rubs and touching her tushy and all kinds of baddies.
She doesn't say touching my tushy.
No, that's a stewardism, sorry.
Yeah. There are a couple of scenes in here that, like the one that you were talking about earlier, Elliot, where like he gets grilled, or there's a scene where the lawyer lays out to Michael Douglas like how painful this is going to be to like try and fight this.
Yeah, they're gonna try to wreck
They're
your
like
life.
better scenes of a better version of this movie, and I like this scene where the assistant, like Michael Douglas, who has thought of himself as a good guy, has to face up to like his assistant being like, "Yeah, I felt uncomfortable sometimes," and then later on, like there's a scene where he apologizes, and then it's immediately undercut by like her whacking him on the butt to be like, now what's sauce for the
Freeze
goose?
frame.
Well, it's like,
How
this
does
is
it
what
feel?
This is what an equal world looks like. Is not nobody getting sexually
Is it
harassed, but everyone's free to sexually harass.
We're all honking each other at all times. See, everybody gets to.
It's
When
honking
when-
Thursdays.
when we live in a free use
Honking
office, then
Thursday.
we'll all be equals. And it's like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Honking Thursday.
Okay. And then we get a big twist at the end here. At the end of Wednesday. Wait, is it still Wednesday?
Yeah, it's still Wednesday.
Still Wednesday.
It's a long Wednesday. Yeah.
It's a long week.
Okay,
Good
it wraps
Wednesday.
up quick. So Michael Douglas realizes that when he made a phone call right before being assaulted, that he must have dialed the wrong number, and he uses some mental math and figures out whose phone number and answering machine he left his message on, and he realizes that he must have just let that phone run, so the whole encounter must be caught on that answering machine tape. What's an answering machine tape, you ask? Well, youngin', that was a thing that was from the 1990s. And he reaches out to the guy who he believes he called, and that guy has the answering machine tape and gives it to him in exchange after making a couple of jokes, and he has evidence. Hooray.
But did we see missed calls from that guy?
I
Because
don't
he acts
know.
like he's like, I've been trying to find you everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like,
No, I don't think we
have
did.
you? I don't
I don't think we did see missed
you
calls.
have. Yeah.
It would have been so easy too to just be
He
like a
was
couple
already
times, like I don't have
built
time for
annoying.
this
Yeah.
right now. I'm
Unless they're trying to make it a red herring that he's the secretive friend who is emailing him
A
suggestions. Yeah. A friend.
So Thursday, at the mediation, they play the tape. It is damning. At one point, the evil lawyer refers to his lawyer as young lady.
Although weirdly,
not
they
cool.
cut the tape off before, like, I don't know whether the idea is like this part wasn't recorded, but they cut it off before like the most damning part where like she's literally like, if you don't come back here and finish what you started, like
She
you're
says, I'm going
out.
to kill you.
You know,
Uh-huh.
like, which is like the most direct admission of harassment, from a boss. It's like,
Right.
I need sexual favors or else you lose your job. But they cut
Or
it off
life.
before that.
I mean,
It's
it
like,
might be. I think,
it's as if they were like, oh, we all heard it. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Assume you heard the whole thing.
I mean,
don't know.
that's the
But
thing.
yeah,
I think
I
they're just
agree.
trying to save time in the movie more than anything
Yeah.
else.
I know, but it's funny to me because like the next thing that happens in the scene is like, all we heard here is two consenting adults having a consensual sexual encounter. And it's like, well, but then later on,
Right. So maybe it didn't work
Yeah.
for that scene if they played it through.
yeah,
And they were like, okay, just don't play that
just
part.
don't do it. We'll cover our tracks.
Okay.
Hey, we really appreciate it if you could not play the whole tape, just play enough to make your case, but not enough to make it really bad. Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're coworkers. Yeah, of course. Well, I have to see you tomorrow. Sure.
So, hey, everybody, Michael Douglas wins. He wins everything he wants. He gets a bonus for pain and suffering. His lawyer's getting paid. He gets to keep working at this really cool company.
He
Does
doesn't have to go to
Austin?
disgusting Austin.
Doesn't have to
that
go to
hasn't
Gross.
gotten cool yet.
Yeah. He hates delicious breakfast tacos. It's the worst thing in the world for
You
him.
have to, but this is 1994. Seattle is the coolest city in the entire United States of America. Like,
People
but
are
does it have a
sleepless there.
bridge where there are bats underneath it? Huh?
I don't know.
That's a thing
I
in
don't know
Austin.
enough about Seattle.
Probably.
No, that's Austin. Austin has
No,
the
I know.
bat
I know Austin has it. I don't know if Seattle has a bat
Seattle
bat
has
bridge.
so much cool stuff. They probably have it. And they don't even talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Austin has moon towers, but Seattle has a space needle. So I don't know which is better.
Seattle has a little thing called coffee. Ever heard of it, Elliot?
Austin doesn't have it. Yeah.
No.
Okay, so everything
Seattle doesn't
seems
have barbecue. What kind of food do they have there? I heard about a Seattle slew.
Dungeness
once.
crabs and shit.
Yeah.
Oh, crabs and
you
shit.
throw
Can I-
fish.
Oh yeah, they throw fish around. They don't do that in
Yeah.
Austin.
They probably cook up a Douglas fir for you. I don't know.
Michael Douglas first. So
Michael Douglas
he's gonna
probably
win
has some fur. Yeah.
Yep. He's going to win everything. Meredith is going to be out. Hooray. However, there's still like 20 minutes left in the movie. So we know things are just getting good.
So unless the rest of it is just Michael Douglas changing his ways and,
Yeah.
and making up with his wife, it's not. Yeah.
Okay, so he gets another mysterious email that's like, it's not over. And he realizes
Follow
there's
the
a loophole
problem.
in his contract that he could be fired for incompetence. And I'm like, yeah, he should have been fired for
I
incompetence.
love to see they're like, he's like, wait, they can't fire me for this, but they can fire me for incompetence, just like any employee
Job.
anywhere. you
Yeah.
know?
So, of course, what he has to do.
Oh, this is a job?
Oh, wait
Yeah.
a minute.
Oh,
Hold
no.
on.
I didn't know.
Oh, I thought I had double jeopardy immunity now. I couldn't get fired for anything.
Yeah, he was like, when I was raised, I was promised a job that I could work at and then retire from. So his only option at this point, he has now been locked out of the computer network. He has to sneak into the Four Seasons
Yep.
and break into the room of the guys that are buying the company. And he has to hook up the VR rig that they have borrowed for some reason because they think it's
To play
neat.
with.
to play with.
And where there's like so many people that could have access to it, like housekeeping, and it's got all these secrets on it.
I love you pointed out earlier, Meredith, but I love that it has this thing when he logs in being like, this is just for entertainment purposes. You like don't look at all of our secret files that this is linked to for some reason, even though it's a demo. But
it's wild.
Yeah.
And so he, of course, logs in, and this is where we are treated to some high-tech visuals. We get to see a digitized Michael Douglas walking through the corridors of. It's very much like what the halls of medicine commercials.
Yes.
And he's also like in the room, he's like standing on a mini trampoline.
It's really cool.
He's on this little platform.
Wearing a helmet.
There's a moment where walking through these corridors of filing cabinets, he almost walks off an edge and he's like, whoa, I'm going to fall.
And they cut to him on the pad, just to make sure you know he's safe, I guess. They cut to him in the hotel room and he looks like anyone playing a VR game. Stupid. Like, looks dumb.
Yeah. I mean, this is a funny moment of like, I think the movie itself undercutting, it's like, okay, but we know that, like this is what Michael Douglas actually looks like right now. He's safe. He's not going to fall down or anything. But I love that this is like the vaporwave aesthetic in a nutshell of like early like CD-ROM where it's just like, let's put a bunch of like columns everywhere.
Yeah.
We're going to make it all
Fancy.
vaguely Grecian.
It's got to look like mist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do they put like a bottomless pit?
That's a good question. Why in their demo of a new filing system in online space they have a bottomless
It's
canyon?
beta, and it's like now it's done rendering like a floor. They put too much into angel wings.
I'm not sure if I would have liked it more or less if they had built in something where it's like, if you're in the system when it gets shut off, then you die. Like so he has to like get out in time before someone turns it off, but they don't have that.
So he is going through the filing cabinets about the virtual filing cabinets, focusing on the business in Malaysia, because he has a suspicion there's some evidence there, which while he's looking at it, he's finding evidence that Meredith was involved in the production problems in Malaysia. He finds a video call recording between the guy running the factory and her. It seems like this is something that's been going on for a while. All of a sudden, we get a digital Demi Moore coming and lasering away evidence.
Because
great.
she's at her desktop computer deleting files so that
After
this evidence
she did
disappears.
The Stairmaster.
Yeah. It seems like the guy.
That's right. We missed the scene where Demi Moore is at the office using her Stairmaster, explaining to Dylan Baker all the bad stuff they're doing, and Michael Douglas happens to walk by and overhear it. And it was like, that she's working out at the office after hours with Dylan Baker is strange. That Michael Douglas just happens to be there to hear. It's like the movie got so lazy for a moment. It was just like, forget it.
And also, like, the first thing you should do is delete the Malaysian files.
Yeah.
You know, are just in the hotel hanging out.
And while he's spying on them, his cell phone rings loudly, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And he answers it. And they do not pay any attention.
They just
at
start
all.
whispering. That's what they do. That's how they internalize it. They whisper.
It's so funny. Okay. There's a little bit of a ticking clock in this scene because Donald Sutherland and these like businessmen who were drinking in the lobby of the Four Seasons are like, "Hey, let's go back up to your room and play that VR rig."
Let's go in that hallway again. I want to look up some files.
It's so funny to watch these guys like hustling down a hallway so they can be the first one on the VR rig.
It's also like the worst acting I've ever seen from Donald Sutherland because it's like he keeps doing this like I can't wait hands where he rubs them together.
I gotta get my hands on those virtual files.
They needed to intercut that hallway walk so many times.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
and then like they're having trouble with the key card. And he's like, "Oh, these things, they never work."
Technology.
Technology, you know?
Okay, so he manages to get some. He manages to find the evidence he needs, and he also realized that if he reaches out to Malaysia, they might have more hard copy information that they don't have on this end.
I mean,
But
also
what we
speaking
really
of this,
learn that the key piece of evidence is that all of the prototypes of the drive that he was in charge of were working great. But in Malaysia, they made a bunch of shortcuts in the manufacturing process that he did not suggest or approve, and we find out in that moment in the virtual in the corridor that it was Demi Moore who is the one who authorized the shortcuts that led to this drive being terrible.
Which seems like the guy who's always offering macadamia nuts to Michael Douglas would have like talked to Michael Douglas about this as like a possible source of the problem earlier in the film. But
my guess
I
is
don't
that
know.
he's not going to do that because he doesn't want to get in trouble, and he
Yeah.
doesn't want Demi Moore's character to
I'm
get in
so
trouble.
glad that you guys can explain the ins and outs of this because it was a little too high tech for me. It was a little over my head.
I mean, my favorite part of this scene though is
Smaller,
when
fast, faster, cheaper.
those
Not what
guys
the
walk
mean.
into the room and they find that, and it pans over. Michael Douglas isn't there, and they all go to the VR, and then around a corner, Michael Douglas just kind of slips out of the room like he's a fucking cat burglar now. Like, what is that he knew the exact moment, I guess, that he needed to be done with the VR system before they got there? It's all.
I mean, this was a time where Michael Douglas would have been in like a Wizard magazine for a Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid.
yeah, that's
movie.
true.
They
That's
turn
true.
on
or
the
Nick
lights.
Fury or
Also, yeah.
something.
They turn on the lights, which I think changes, even with the VR headset, changes the ambient light enough that he's like, uh-oh. And that's why he's able to slip out. I think
I guess
He's
that's
also at the point in the movie where he's the hero up against everything, and he's smarter than everyone else.
Yes,
and
he
that's
gets
like
special
the
powers.
moment. Yeah,
he's
he
been
gets
special protagonist
self-actualized
powers.
by the hardship he's had to go
But
through.
it reminds me of there's like this at the very end of
Yeah, that's true.
at the end of Sneakers, when the bad guy gets defeated because one of the other guys
Ben
just happens to
Kingsley,
be right above him in the drop ceiling and
Yeah.
jumps out and gets him, and it's like, so he was just in that waiting in that spot in case the bad guy came, or Rambo in First Blood, how he's like camouflaged against that tree and the guy comes across and he kills him. It's like, so how long was he standing at that tree waiting for someone to wander by that he happened to need to kill?
Or when
you
he
know?
covers himself in mud and hides in like a riverbank. Same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
There's a lot of things that don't make sense. Like my favorite line I think in the whole movie is when Becky Ann Baker's husband,
Dylan Baker.
Dylan
Dylan Baker, sees that Michael Douglas is stressed out, and he goes, "You look stressed. Do you need a Prozac?"
which does not work
That's
immediately.
not how it works.
You
In
have
6
to-
weeks, you feel better.
Yeah, exactly.
After
He should have said
incrementally taking it.
He should have said, "You seem stressed. Do you need a Zima?"
Do you need a Zima?
Well,
yeah.
you're
That
like
would
a
be
Xanax or a Klonopin, like
yeah,
a
sure. It's not like those didn't
a
exist.
tranquilizer,
Valium.
not like anyway.
Anyway.
No, but it's like Prozac's a thing from the 90s. It's just like
It's
there's
90s
a-
stuff.
There's
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
sock mumpy in my
Sock mumpy.
Well,
90s kids remember sock mumpy.
yeah, whatever. Okay,
I mean,
So-
are sock
off-brand
monkeys a
sock
90s
monkey.
thing? I feel like sock monkeys are like an 1890s thing.
I don't know. I think it's I
Do
think it's
time
more of-
travel. He
think
thinks we're talking about the 1890s.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah,
used
that's
to-
why I thought it was so high tech for the 1890s.
Where he gets all those muscles working on the railway.
Yep. So we have, so it's Friday, baby, TGIF. So Michael Douglas apologizes to Cindy. She slaps his ass. We have like a big shareholders presentation to talk about the merger. This is where they were going to reveal Michael Douglas's incompetence, but no, he has already prepared it. He turns the tables on them and plays video evidence of Demi Moore.
And
He
Demi
plays,
Moore.
he plays video evidence that Demi Moore was at the Malaysian plant, which is from a Malaysian news story. I'm
It's
like,
like, this is
slow news day in
Malaysian
Malaysia.
3.
American executive visits factory.
But it's also like you also learn, and maybe you already mentioned this, Stuart, but like you learn that the whole thing in her office where she was going to frame him for sexual harassment later was a large plan by
Yeah.
everyone to oust him so he could be the fall guy, and then we would blame him for the manufacturing changes, and everybody was in on it, right?
Yeah,
That's
like
what
Donald
it
Sutherland
seems
seems
like.
to
That's
be
what
in
it seems
Yeah.
like.
I don't think
And
Donald
then they
Sutherland was
pivot.
in on it, but I think
They
Dylan
pivot
Baker.
when it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then they go, well, we'll get him on incompetence. But
Yeah.
it feels like you could have just done that from day one. Like just trying to
really
get him
feels
on
like
incompetence.
the sexual harassment aspect of the plan, seems like the unnecessary complication that causes more trouble than it's worth.
And also, she never needed to do any of it if she was just going to make all of it up anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
like she didn't need to. So maybe she also wanted to because of her last 10.
know what?
assistants
There's some
going
holes
away.
in
But
this.
it's
weirdest-
muddy. It's muddy.
The weirdest part is after, okay, so she blows up, she's out, she's fired. He goes to her office and they have, a little bit of verbal sparring. And he suggests that maybe it was his plan all along to trick her into like this situation. Like he makes this inference and I'm like, Wait, what? Nothing
Yeah,
supports that.
There's nothing
that's
in the
him
movie
just trying to be
to say
cool,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
he
I
did
think-
not have that plan.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to like leave her on a disquieting note where
Yeah.
she has to be worried about it.
She
So,
does, and she does say a line where she's like, "I've already had like 5 offers since the meeting."
Headhunters have been calling.
Yeah, and I'm like, what is this, like the sequel? Like this is like Jason Voorhees isn't dead? Like
Yeah,
what the
To
fuck's going on
Closure,
here?
the sequel.
But yeah, so she's out. Yep, maybe he set her up. I don't think so. Turns out Michael Douglas doesn't even get the VP job. That goes to Stephanie, who has been the mastermind all along. She's been sending the mysterious emails.
A
right?
friend.
from
Thank
Arthur
you.
Friend's email account, which I don't know why that had to be part of it.
That's
That
why,
it had
that's
to
why I
be-
was saying,
yeah.
like, it could have easily been like a friend
Yeah.
at whatever,
But,
and then it would still work. Like, you
But
don't
it's-
need to say a friend if it comes from an unknown sender.
Yeah.
You didn't need to play that game.
And it's like earlier on, he had tried to track the emails and be like, oh, they're coming from this professor's computer, but he's away in Nepal. And you find out that Stephanie's son, who is a student at that college,
Oh, I
a
forgot.
friend is his mentor. And so he was the one using that computer. And it's like, it made me so mad. Everything in this movie that gets mentioned, except for maybe 2 things, has to play into this whole plot. So like, he's trying to get these Disneyland tickets for his coworker. Turns out that's the coworker who can get him the video he needs from Malaysia. And
backup, yeah.
she mentions earlier that her son is at college. Well, that has to play into her scheme to help him through this situation. It's just like, movie.
But also,
can, like,
why was he at that all hands on deck meeting? Like, why was that son there?
well, I mean, I guess he knows that she's going to be promoted and he wants to
But
be there.
did he
for
know?
it,
Because
but-
it was,
They didn't
remember,
know
it's like
until
in
that-
10
Yeah.
minutes, Donald Sutherland is going to
she was like,
announce
I'm
this
about to
thing.
get promoted. You need to teleport down here. You know? But yeah,
My
it's,
mommy's mastermind scheme has come to fruition.
Yeah.
You
That
gotta
is a
be here.
much better title for this movie.
Mommy's
Mastermind.
He also
mastermind
goes-
scheme.
There's
Mommy's
also, like, a thing-
mastermind macaroni rascals. Yeah.
Donald Sutherland says, like, I was trying so hard to break the glass ceiling, like to hire someone who was a woman that I overlooked and didn't hire who was the best person. So he's saying, like, Demi Moore was the woman who he was just hired for being a woman. But I didn't see that there was the best person for the
Yeah.
job. And then he picks Stephanie. And so you're supposed to realize that a woman is a person, could be a person
Yeah,
too.
I guess,
I guess so.
Like,
everyone.
Stephanie is not just a woman.
This-
She's also
this-
a person.
This is an example of throughout the movie thinks it is a very smart movie when it's actually a very dumb movie. And so it keeps doing things like that where it's like, this will be an intricate little reveal or this will be a lesson, but it's stupid. And there's the one thing I'll give the movie credit for is having seen the way tech companies operate publicly. I do believe that someone like Demi Moore's character who can talk a good game and cannot back it up could get to that level of power, as we've seen in so many tech companies now. And then eventually they'll be
What are
going,
you
oh, well,
talking about?
this person, yeah, exactly. This person's less flashy but more competent. I guess we'll bring them in now to
Yeah.
clean up the mess. But it is the whole glass ceiling speech is just the final make you think that Michael Douglas is going to get the job moment when like he's been proved his incompetence throughout the movie. Like the idea
Yeah.
that he would ever get this job
Yeah.
is insulting to the audience.
Also, like, why would they promote him? He's like got a chip on his shoulder. Like, there's all like he just went through this whole disclosure nonsense.
I'm surprised he wants to stay at the company at this point. I mean, like now that he's his friend is his boss. Maybe it's better, but it seems like it's been a terrible
It's really
experience for him.
convenient. He
But
can take the ferry to work. I get
Yeah.
It also just feels like the only person who went down was Demi Moore's
Yeah.
character. And I feel like there were a lot of people that seemed to know what was going on and how they were setting this guy up to fall.
Well,
Yeah.
That it felt like there should be a couple more heads that rolled.
the movie clumsily tries to make that point to turn around and like not be sexist at the end and be like, see, it's only the woman that takes the fall for this, but it feels so disingenuous at that point in disclosure. I wanted to say it's a small point. I don't want to be too hard on like a young actor who's probably directed to act this way, but the kid
Dan hates young, inexperienced actors. He's
the
always
kid,
ragging
he's not
on
that. I mean, he's like college age. The kid
specifically minors.
who's
Damn it.
who sent the a friend emails like seems so smug in that scene.
He is very smug. Yeah.
Like I'm like, I don't like this guy. His smug smiles.
He does
Anyway.
come off as very unlikable. That's true.
Okay, and then Michael Douglas, gets a voicemail from his family that his kids miss him. Hooray, he wins the day. End
Yeah.
of the movie.
So
Did I
let's,
miss
And then
anything?
and then
Did I
there's the
miss
mid
anything?
credit
No.
sequence where Samuel L. Jackson goes, "Have you heard of the disclosure protocol?" And he goes, "Huh?" And then we're assembling a team of sexual harassment victims to
Yeah, that was-
stop crimes. You
Yeah,
know?
they did that after all the bloopers from the and outtakes from the sex scene, right?
Yeah.
That's not a sex scene, Stuart. That's an assault scene.
Thank you.
All right, let's give our final judgments on this movie, whether it's a good, bad movie, a bad movie, or a movie we kind of like. I think those are clear categories. But Meredith, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm going to say that, it has some like politics in it that may be a stumbling block for enjoyment of it. But if you can look at those as like relics of the time, or I mean, unfortunately not so much, but like if there are things that you can laugh at because they're so like poorly handled, if you can get past that part to the deliciously dumb VR thriller that then lies beneath, I would say that this is a good, bad movie because I think it is sort of easy to watch in that it's got like good actors and like slick surface and that 90s vibe of dumb thriller that is fun. But I can understand if you can't get past the other stuff. But I would say good, bad. Stuart, what do you say?
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I kind of like. I wish it leaned more into a sleazy erotic thriller. But on the other hand, I do love all the VR and email animations and all that stuff. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just nostalgic for a simpler age. But yeah, I'll say it's a good, bad movie.
I'm going to say it's a bad movie. I found it kind of boring and dull to sit through much of it. But I think it's certainly worth, if there's on YouTube, if you can look up like Disclosure, old technology supercut, like that would certainly be worth watching because the VR stuff is genuinely very funny because it is how bad it looks, but how amazing all the characters think it looks. Meredith, what do you think?
I agree about the VR stuff. Particularly the first demo that the guy
Moore?
who plays the angel, I think is Demo Moore, is just gold. Like when I was trying to look it up online, I kept finding the part where he goes and breaks into the hotel room, which and Demi Moore appears behind him, which is funny. But I think the first initial demo is the funniest demonstration of how stupid this technology is in a file room. There's also a lot of great mumbo jumbo when she's making a presentation about like using, harnessing CD-ROMs, PDA devices, and facsimile machine. You're like, what are you? It's just garbage gobbledygook. I would call this a good, bad movie because I found it very watchable. The score, the whole the pacing, the actors, there is sort of a certain familiarity to that time period that feels like a warm sweater. But then you watch it with 2024 eyes and you're like, oh my God, this is fucked up. Like, and like, where was I still am like, where is the lady sexual? Where's why did it have to like be like, but what if it happened to a man? That's the scary part. Like where,
Disclose
I guess, yeah.
her.
We got She Said at least a couple years ago about the Harvey stuff, but
some of which was shot in the Capitol Grill down on Water Street scenes were shot at the same table I ate at once.
Wow.
The tales of Stu's connection to
It was
She
a
Said.
specific. We were
Thanks.
celebrating
The Stu
and then
shooting locations walking tour.
We
Yeah.
were celebrating, and we had a great steak dinner, and the server clocked us as being industry folks, so she really did it up. And then she ended up taking us on a
Industry
walk
folks.
through the through the kitchen, and we got to go into the steak aging room, and they're sticking steaks in our face and shit. We get home and Charlene's like, I don't feel so well. She takes a COVID test, immediately has COVID. And we're like, oh no, all those steaks.
Coughed on all of them.
you get it from steak. But
Yeah.
how did they clock you as industry folk? What exactly?
We were
What was the signal?
Well, we were.
Were you holding
first off, we
Writers
were
Guild
drinking
awards?
a lot at like 6.
He and his
in the afternoon.
wife own a few bars.
And we were with our business partner, who we also own bars with.
So you mean the
And-
restaurant
Nice.
industry folks,
restaurant.
not
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought
showbiz
you meant
industry folks.
showbiz industry.
That's what I thought you meant at first, too.
I thought you were
know.
like-
People
Yeah.
that don't know me assume that I'm
wearing
some
a hat
kind
that
of.
said award season.
I thought you meant the
No.
aerospace industry. That's what I misunderstood.
No,
yeah.
I'm talking about the
Digicom
food and
industry.
beverage industry. You know,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
burst in
Sorry,
my
sorry.
heart.
I will say, going back to not to jump back to the more germane conversation after Stuart's story of his lunch. But I think it's the most damning thing about this movie, more than any of the other stuff, is like you're saying, Meredith, that like sexual harassment of women, I guess, was considered so like just assumed to be so commonplace and so widespread and,
never
so
change.
normal and would never change that the idea of making a movie about it did not occur to anyone really, except for 9 to 5, which is a comedy again, until they could say, well, okay, what if it happened to a man? Then it's an interesting enough story to make a movie of it. Whereas if it happens to a woman, what are you going to do?
That just happens to women. That's just what we all know.
We're going to make a
be
movie
true.
about how people get wet when it rains? Like, come on, what are we doing here? That's
Yeah.
what it feels like, which is gross. Yeah.
Hello, sleepyheads. Sleeping with Celebrities is your podcast pillow pal. We talk to remarkable people about unremarkable topics, all to help you slow down your brain and drift off to sleep. For instance, we have the remarkable Neil Gaiman.
I'd always had a vague interest in live culture, food preparation.
Sleeping with Celebrities, hosted by me, John Moe, on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Night-night.
You can't really know if your own show is any good.
So I asked my kids about ours. Is Jordan Jesse Go a good show?
No, definitely not. It's really bad.
I would say out of 10, maybe like a 4 out of 10.
It's just really boring. Yeah, 0.
Subscribe to Jordan Jesse Go, a comedy show for grown-ups.
The Flophouse is sponsored in part by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to succeed online. Whether you're just beginning or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything all in one place, all on your terms. Look, it's the modern world. You need a website. If you're going to do something, you need a website. I don't care what it is. You need a website. And you can personalize your website with Squarespace Blueprint, which lets you pick from curated layout and styling options to build your online presence from the ground up, tailored to your brand or business and optimized for all devices. You can make checkout seamless with their simple but powerful payment tools. Accept credit cards, use PayPal, Apple Pay, and in eligible countries even, customers can buy now and pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay. Sell your products and services with an online store, whether physical goods, digital content, or services. Squarespace has the tools you need to start selling online. If you want a website, you don't want something that's going to be a lot of hassle, Squarespace is for you. So go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/flop to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
We also have a Jumbotron. This message is for Nick. It is from Emily, and it goes as follows. Happy birthday, Nick, a.k.a. John, Buddy, Big Guy. You're a good movie. His name is Nick. Finally.
Wait, finally what?
I remembered his name's Nick. He drinks at my bar.
Oh, okay, great.
Now is the part of the episode where I, Elliot Kalin, tell you about our upcoming live shows, and I do it at the same time we record the rest of the episode. It's certainly not a message that was recorded later using information we didn't have at the time we were recording the episode. We're all right here in the room together, just like normal, recording the whole episode, right, Dan? Yeah. Right, Stu? Oh, yeah, dude. So let me tell you about it in this perfectly real-time explanation. On July 26th, we will be in Boston, Massachusetts, doing a live show courtesy of WBUR at WBUR City Space. Now, as we know and certainly didn't learn after recording the rest of the episode, that show is sold out right now. You can no longer buy tickets to see it in person, but WBUR has opened up the ability for you to live stream it. So go to flophousepodcast.com/events and click on the info and ticks button for that show. It'll take you to the page where you can buy a live streaming ticket. Now, I should warn you, this is just going to be a pretty basic, straightforward, in-the-moment live stream. It's not going to be the kind of beautifully polished, beautifully edited, immaculately shot show that we've been doing with Stage Pilot lately. If you saw our Speed 2 show, you saw how gorgeous that looked, how well put together it was. That's thanks to the fine people at Stage Pilot. This is not going to be as polished as that. This is going to be a little more ragtag. So don't expect the level of production that you've come to expect from the Flophouse Stage Pilot collaboration. This is just us and WBUR live streaming a show that otherwise you wouldn't be able to see because it's sold out. So please go to flophousepodcast.com/events, click on the info and ticks button for Boston, and it'll take you to that page if you would like to live stream the episode because you can't make it there in person, or you couldn't get a ticket, or you just decided maybe you want to watch it both ways, and you'll be sitting in the audience with a computer in your lap, live streaming the show as it happens in order to do a lag test, I guess, maybe. Anyway, that's what you can do. So we'll be in Boston July 26th. That show is sold out, but you can live stream it. Just go to flophousepodcast.com/events for more information. And now, back to the episode that is being recorded right now and certainly not days earlier before we found out the show was sold out.
Let's move on to letters from listeners. This first one is from Paul, last name withheld, who writes, "Hey, Peaches. It was so wonderful to see you all in Oxford. I was there for both shows and loved every minute, especially watching Elliot get angrier and angrier during Stu's dinosaurs presentation."
Oh, made me so genuinely mad. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I really felt
telling
for
a
it.
lot of lies about dinos. I didn't get to speak to Stu or Elliot, but I did bump into Dan as he was navigating to the venue. I told all my friends and family about my exciting encounter, but for some reason, they seemed uninterested. I lost my nerve to ask a question during the shows, so I was hoping you could answer them via the good old movie mailbag. Dan, what's the status on the Missed That Movie Ghoulies sequel special we were promised? Stuart, did you take a pilgrimage to Warhammer World while you were in the UK? Did you drag Dan and Elliot along? Elliot, not a question, but I was listening to your 99% Visible Power Broker episode on which you were the last to talk as the episode ended. My podcatcher then switched to partway through a Flophouse episode of Sonic 2, just as you were describing Sonic snowboarding amongst some rings. The difference in excitement in your voice made me laugh out loud, causing most of the train carriage to stare at me. Love you all. Paul, last name withheld.
Can I interject one thing about Elliot?
Yeah.
I think you have a fantastically listenable to podcasting voice.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
It's incredibly
I often get told the opposite.
clear. Really?
Yeah.
I find like it's like so succinct and crystal clear. I don't know. I think it works really well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's very nice. There was early days in the podcast, there would be a lot of comments online about, I can't listen to that guy with the shitty voice. And I'd be like, that's rough. But then I was at a children's birthday party on Saturday, and I was talking to one of the birthday kids, and she goes, "Why do you have such a squeaky voice? Why is your voice so squeaky?" And I was
that's
like,
a good question.
And I was like, I guess it's just my voice, but I really walked away from it with a real, that kid did a whammy on my head. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
True. Some non-fans have a problem. I've never understood it because I feel like even on the Daily Show, you used to do all the voiceover for those Decider cartoons. I think that you have a very clear, very expressive voice.
Thank you.
And
I appreciate
specific, which I think makes you special.
Yeah.
Thanks. Let's talk more about me and how good I am about that stuff. No,
well, we can do it after the show. We can pump you up, but
it doesn't really work unless other people hear it.
That's
Dan.
true. That's the way external validation works. You need to be able to show off in front of other people.
Well, I think you're just great. You're a friend and you're an inspiration. But let's go.
A pal
on
and a
to
confidant. Dan, if you threw a party and invited everyone you knew, wait, if I threw the party and invited everyone who I see the biggest gift would be from?
Well,
You.
I don't know. We
Me.
we have exchanged gifts, but we're not so much.
It's the second.
Probably my spouse would give me a bigger gift than you
that's
would, or
true.
vice
Yeah,
versa.
That's
But
fair.
anyway, missed that movie's Ghoulies sequel special. I don't know if we'll actually do a special, but I did finally catch up with Ghoulies 2, which I liked better than Ghoulies. It gives you more of what you want, which is Ghoulies running around. It finally makes good on the promise of a ghoulie in a toilet biting someone. It has some great like 80s sort of lighting and low budget like fun sets at a carnival, which is more fun than sort of just like someone's house. So yeah, I recommend Ghoulies 2. And of course, Ghoulies go to college. How can you go wrong? They go to college,
They're finally getting that degree. Good on you, Ghoulies.
Stuart, did you take a pilgrimage to Warhammer World while you were in the UK?
Yeah, I know everybody here is really interested in my whether or not I went up to Nottingham to visit Warhammer World while I was in England. This trip I did not, so I wasn't able to drag Elliot and Dan with me to learn all about Space Marines and Warhammer stuff and all kinds of crap like that. I did go to a number of shops, including one of my favorite hobby shops in London called the Orc's Nest. And in Barcelona, I went to Goblin Trader, which is, I guess, as good as I can get on this one.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty good.
If it helps, Stuart didn't go to Warhammer World, but I did my equivalent of that my last day in England, which is I went to go finally see the Crystal Palace Park dinosaur statues that I've wanted to see since I was a wee boy. So that's kind of similar, right? Making a kind of pilgrimage.
Yeah, it's pretty similar, yeah.
Second letter goes like this. Dear Peaches, congratulations on the recent cameo of the Peach Pit in Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. It's always a delightful surprise when it appears in the Flophouse podcast feed, but you can imagine my shock to see it take up such a prominent position in a big blockbuster film. I had the twin delights of learning the origins of the iconic Imperator Furiosa and my favorite podcast within a podcast at the same time. How long has our favorite Flophouse after show been planned to be a symbol of Furiosa's lost home? What was it like filming a podcast within a movie? What clues did we miss in previous Peach Pit episodes that foreshadowed the shocking reveal? I look forward to seeing how the Peach Pit lore expands in the future. Best wishes, CM, last name withheld.
I think I see the mistake that this letter writer is making, but I want to make sure you guys see the same mistake before I point it out.
What error is that?
That would be confusing. The Peach Pit, a podcast with a physical object. An actual pit from inside a peach.
That makes sense.
It gets planted in a very dramatic fashion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was all inevitable. Great minds, I guess.
I like
Me
that
and George Miller.
I like that Furiosa movie, though.
Yeah, so did I.
We do have a professional connection in that my first comic book work for Marvel, the art was done by Brendan McCarthy, who did the storyboards for Fury Road and is credited as one of the screenwriters for Fury Road. So that's kind of a George Miller Flophouse connection.
Yeah, a little bit of a connection, sure.
Yeah.
Well, let us move on to our final segment, which is recommendations of movies that we enjoyed that maybe would be a better use of your time than, in my case,
maybe
seeing Disclosure for, I think, the third time in my life.
Oh,
maybe,
really?
Maybe fourth. I don't know.
I think that's more than the people who made it watched it.
Yeah. The accumulation of years, Anyway, it's not an excuse. I'm going to recommend.
No, it's not.
An animated short. A long animated short. It's 20 minutes. It's on the Criterion Channel. It's called Asparagus. It's a very sort of non-linear, sort of non-narrative collection of images, many of them phallic, the asparagus of the title, and others more feminine. The animator, whose name I really should look up, and I will have for you in a second.
I looked it up. Dan, you want me to tell you?
Yeah, tell me.
It's Susan Pitts.
Susan Pitts. Yeah.
Oh, Susan Pitt. I'm sorry, Susan Pitt.
Susan Pitt.
Pitts was the possessive form of her name.
Yeah.
Wait, did you say it's fat? There's phallicness to the
asparagus
ones,
and then there's also some, there's also like vaginal imagery. It's all very like, it's like a phantasmagoria of imagery. And I've read stuff that suggests sort of a deeper sort of feminist meaning that I, have to be honest, I could not derive myself from viewing it, but I am recommending it because simply as a piece of animation, it's one of the most gorgeous, like hand-drawn things I've ever seen. And it's
Awesome.
very sort of stream of consciousness, just images sort of floating up from the nether reaches of the brain kind of feel to it that it's just beautiful. And it's short. So
I was trying to figure out yesterday
yeah.
in Italian if like penile like fruit and vegetables tended to be more masculine because everything's masculine and feminine in Italian and if vaginal or like lady part like fruits and vegetables looking things tended to be more like end in an A and O for boys. Like I was like trying to figure out if they actually went along those lines a little bit. And it didn't really pan out.
I'm going to jump on the grenade here, guys. What's a vaginal fruit or vegetable?
I think a peach tradition. I mean, like it's come to be more butt, associated through emoji. But I think a peach would be.
But I would even say like an apple feels more like a female than male, like banana. This is different, but like clams and oyster,
sure,
the fruit of the sea.
Fruit of the sea. But
you cut open a papaya. It seems more vaginal.
Oh, also the vagina fruit.
Things.
The Brazilian vagina fruit looks very
cantaloupes, especially, things like that.
So I guess
Classy.
we've really cracked it here on the Flophouse today.
I think much as men have positioned themselves as the default, I feel like it's like long, thin things are penile, and so anything else that's not long or thin becomes branded as vaginal because doesn't look like a penis. That's kind of my understanding of it.
Yeah. Oh, I was also looking at snakes.
I know that you're
snakes.
I know from
fruit.
your Instagram that you're a very busy person. But this is so funny. It's like, what a rich, full life.
Or no, that was Monday. That was Monday.
Yeah.
Got to start the week off.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess.
What do you want to recommend now?
I'm going to recommend a movie. I'm going to recommend a movie from a couple of years ago by a Japanese director. I'm probably going to mess this up. Ryosuke Hamaguchi. Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy. It's a triptych of 3 short films, kind of loosely related, all dealing with love and relationships. They're all about 2 or 3 character short stories, and they're all kind of really interesting. The second one in particular, dealing with a college professor, I found to be really moving and memorable. But all 3 of them are really great. This came out the same year as Drive My Car, his 3-hour epic. And I think it's nice to see a director making short stories that have a similar level of impact, at least for me, as something so long as Drive My Car. So Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy was really great. Check it out.
You guys both recommended things based around shorts. I probably should do the same thing, but I'm not. Instead, I'll follow Stuart's. This is a real long one. I'll follow Stuart's lead. I'm also going to recommend a Japanese movie from a couple years ago. By a couple, I mean 27 years ago, 1997. This is Hanabi, or as it's translated in the United States, Fireworks, with a movie that kind of made Takeshi Kitano as respected a figure in film as he is today, where it's technically a crime drama, but so much time and effort is put into the small moments that are going on in the characters' lives or their emotional kind of travails, and the crime aspects of it are abbreviated to the point almost of being surreally kind of dreamlike in just kind of things that punctuate scenes. And I thought it's a movie that the ending is questionably bleak, but I think it's a really beautiful movie, and it's I like it as a movie that is almost daring the audience how far are you willing to go with me in denying yourself the thrills of a crime movie and looking at instead kind of the effects that those thrills have on people? And so it's one that I had not seen in a long, long time. And I found that as a grown-up, I enjoyed it more than as a young person who was expecting more of a straightforward crime movie. But it's really good. So that's Fireworks.
I feel like that's a movie where the moments of violence are so extreme that everything else is filled with this like tension and dread.
Yes. But also kind of like a hopefulness too. Like you see a character kind of learning how to express themselves through art in a way that they never thought was possible.
Yeah.
But it's right. But the violent scenes when they happen are very violent, and they happen quick. So you're like, what did I just see? Meredith, would you like to recommend something? Would you like to join us in the world of recommendation?
Sure, I will.
It has to be a Japanese movie or a short. That's the only thing.
No. Right. The movie I most recently saw was Renee Elise Goldsberry, who plays Wiki in Girls Five Eva, made a documentary about her life during, before Hamilton, getting Hamilton, and when it was like the biggest phenomenon in the world. And so if you're interested in Hamilton, and even just like a diary of an actor's life, and also, the struggles of like starting a family and also being part of this like massive juggernaut that's like where you're going to the White House every other day and all that stuff. It's quite interesting. There's a lot of amazing footage and it's really moving. Like I definitely found myself like tearing up many times during this thing. And also like Renee is just such a wonderful human and such a powerhouse talent. Like it's just interesting to watch her, period. So I would recommend that. I don't know where the distributor will be because it was just at the film festival, but I assume somebody.
What's the title of it?
Keep it in your.
It's called Satisfied.
Satisfied.
Oh, like
Keep
the
it in your
song.
Like the song.
brains,
yeah.
listeners, and watch for it when you can. And this dovetails nicely into the next thing, which was me. I was going to ask you to plug your show, and I wanted to say with her, like I'd seen her in Hamilton, but you have a lot of people on the show who I've seen be funny before, so like, and they're tremendously funny, but it wasn't like the shock of the new, like she's so funny on the show, and I hadn't seen her get a chance to do that before.
Same with Sarah Bareilles, like people didn't know she was funny, so it's like a real delight when you're like, oh, I didn't know they could do that too.
Yeah.
I thought they could do that one thing really well. They could do two things?
It just makes me mad.
Surely not.
I go, they can do two things?
Kind of gross.
I can only do one thing. They can do two?
Their talent level's gross.
Like I'd only seen Dean Winter in Oz, and then I see him in this, and I'm like, wait, he's funny?
So yeah, I mean, the whole show is on Netflix now.
It is 3 seasons on Netflix. And if you love rapid fire hard jokes, I feel like you'll, in the vein of like Kimmy Schmidt or 30 Rock, I think that you'll enjoy the show a lot.
It's such a funny show. It's so funny.
Yeah, and that like joke density is so intense.
Well, that's
like you want to rewatch episodes because you missed stuff.
That's one of the levels I wanted to sell it on, because I know that Elliot especially being like a comedy professional and a comedy snob, sometimes rails against like, it's like, yeah, that show's okay, but like I want jokes, and like Girls Five Eva.
That's what I like about Girls Five Eva.
Yes,
it's super joke dense, and you're watching it, you're like, why am I watching this show? I'm watching it because it's really funny. Like I know I'm going to laugh when I watch this show, as opposed to when people are like, you should watch this comedy, it's really good, and I watch it and I don't laugh a single time. And it's not just because I'm a hardened snob, but also I'll be like, there weren't very many jokes in that comedy, like that everybody seems to love. But this is a show that people love because it's funny and it deserves to be.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. You're all so funny, so I really appreciate
we all have
the
to
fact
know
that
we all think we're funny.
Show. Yeah.
Thank you.
You are. It's high praise coming from you.
Yeah. Yeah, and our listeners get to hear you call us funny. So we get that thing Elliot was talking about. So thank you.
We've all got validation externally.
So we should sign off there. Thank you so much for not only being on the show, but trucking out to Flophouse Studios, aka my office, to record it.
What neighborhood is this?
We're in Kensington. We're on
Kensington.
the edge of Kensington.
Gotcha.
Yep. Bordering Windsor Terrace.
Windsor
And what's your
Terrace. I
street
thought we were
address?
in Windsor Terrace.
Yeah, your street address.
No.
And
What's
the
a list
pin?
of your weaknesses, Dan?
Yeah.
What hours are you
windows
usually at
don't
home
lock.
but asleep?
Just sort of like, like make me feel like maybe you don't like me. And that'll probably
That's your
destroy me
weakness.
pretty
That's how-
quickly.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
Anyway. Make me feel like I have done something wrong and that you won't accept my attempts to make it good.
I will admit,
then
Dan,
allow
okay.
Dan's brain to devour itself.
Yeah.
I feel guilty about this, but my favorite part of our whole England trip, I think, was when we were hosting that screening of Spice World, and you were bending over backwards to be complimentary, and then you, in complimenting the Spice Girls, you referred to them as manufactured, and the audience all booed you, and,
What?
and the house of esteem crumbled so quickly.
Well, that was what I was like.
Oh my God! I would have. Can I just say, if it were ever on the table, I would have flown myself to London to be part of that episode.
Oh, now we know for next time.
Yeah, for next time they do a sequel.
Yeah, it was in the context of me being like, I don't
No,
care
but they
whether
were
they're manufactured.
They were literally assembled.
Oh, I just got a message. Boo.
Oh no, England is booing. It's from England.
No, I mean, it's not like a.
Oh,
it's not a diss. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
They didn't form
People,
themselves.
Well, that was the fun. 'cause
the organizer came up to me afterwards and said, "I'm sorry for booing you, Dan. I agree with you, but it's just so much fun."
Yeah.
It's fun. It is fun to boo.
Yeah.
Dan got to be booed by people. I got to fix a toilet right before we went on stage. It was great. We all
did
did
all our
Sounds
strengths.
amazing.
Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you to our network, Maximum Fun. Go over to MaximumFun.org to check out other great shows. Thank you to our producer, Alex Smith. He goes by the name Howell Doughty. He just dropped an album.
It's great.
You should check that out. What's the name of that album, Stuart?
I Need Help.
I Need Help. Thank you. I listened to it, but I could not remember the title. I Need Help. It's a very funny album that's also good music. But that's it for this episode. So, for the Flophouse, I have been Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
I'm Elliot Kalin.
And I'm Meredith Scardino.
Bye.
Bye. We've been disclosed.
Ooh, I want to hear.
So I was doing Kermit's press conference where he's announcing that they have fired Sam the Eagle for his involvement with January 6th.
Can I hear some?
We all hoped that it would turn out not to be our former colleague, but after reviewing the videotape, it seems very clear. And we will not be taking questions at this further time. That is my full announcement.
That's
But all the other Muppets are starting to doubt. They're starting to buy into the conspiracies of it.
Elmo didn't know.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported
Directly
by you.